Very good. You lead, I'll follow.
And we are live. I'm here with Steve. Steve, how you doing?
I'm well. How you doing? Good to have. Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, it's been like we were just discussing. It's been 4 years, and time flies, right?
4 years. I can't. I don't know. I don't remember 4 years ago. It's holy cow. 4 years.
What have you been doing? I see you around. I don't like. I go out of my way not to listen to Catholic content online, but I see you around. I do see you around, and I see you collaborating with people, interesting people. You want to just catch me up, like what you've been up to the past 4 years?
Well, let's see. 4 years ago, that was what 2019. Just moved back from North Carolina from Denver, and between then and the obviously you remember the whole thing when the world closed down. And but so politics was one of the things that got me back into being Catholic, really, or led everything, was like the first domino, and changed that mindset. Changed my brother. My brother got me into Catholicism, etc. Anyway, it's always been an interest, and seeing what was going on and just driving myself batty, and wanting to have a way to tell others, see if there's any way I could explain that to others, what was going on, what I was seeing, because I don't think too many Catholics listen to alternative media like I do. Like mostly everyone probably thinks they're a bunch of kooks. So I'm listening to it. I'm seeing things. I'm going, I got to say something. I have that. It was that whole Spider-Man thing with great power comes great responsibility. I'm thinking, all right, I got a responsibility to at least say something. So started a news show. A long story with that one. Rebooted the news show, and so we're still doing that basically once a week. They started doing Clown Planet,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is
I was watching that. I was watching that back during the pandemic or whatever. I was watching a bit of
yes,
that. Yeah, yeah.
still going. I haven't done it in a couple of weeks just because Holy Week was just long, and I'm trying to bust out the redoing the Garage because YouTube did not like me reading from the screen. They think it was I was stealing content if I was reading from a website without my face on the. Literally, that was what they said. If you're reading from a website without your face on it, they're thinking, yeah, it's like your AI bot. I'm going, trust me, you can tell that's not an AI bot. So I, for the first, let's see, December through end of April, it's all was that. So that included Holy Week. So basically I started redoing that to have photos in the background, which to me I think is a blessing in disguise because I'm finding more. I just redid this week. It's this. I didn't even read it this week. I'm listening to myself, which is hard, and reading along in it to make sure to see what's coming on next to figure out what photos I'm going to use next. And I got more out of it this week than I did last year when I read the darn thing into the thing and edited it. So it's been just one of those things. Been redoing that, doing the news thing, Clown Planet. That takes about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. Not no 3 hours just to edit, plus an hour of prep. I just bust it all out. I'm collecting news throughout the week, along with the family. We got another kids. We got three now since the last time we talked.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just bam, 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 and somehow I get to eat and work out in between and
Yeah.
find a nap, find some nap time at night.
So there's a connection with Enoch. You and Enoch, you know each other. What's the story there?
Oh
Because he's a
yes,
great
for a
guy. He was a
while.
great guest. Really lovely guy.
Yeah, for a while. He was. I knew him back when he was in San Diego, and he started the Holy 40 Project, all about promoting virtue and things like that. And I think we just. I think it just he messaged me one time talking about how much the channel has influenced him, and we started chatting. We basically been talking ever since. He put me on with my first interview. I think it was with him. Was a black and white on Instagram, and I thought that was cool. But yeah, we've been chatting it up for about. It's probably been about 5 years I've known him, and we have a couple mutual friends too. And then again, when I started to reboot, and I was thinking, all right, how do I want this thing to go? I don't want it to go the way it is. I want it to be bring the news to people. I'll be the one that comes out with the weird stuff. And I got Arrington that can does scripture and patristics, just the top of his head. And I go, virtue for us. He was an easy pick. I'm like, let me ask him if he could do it. And if you watch him on there, he'll be able to see, oh yeah, they're the virtue of whatever, and he'll bring that out. This is what's lacking here, and what that is. So he's been the go-to, the virtue go-to guy. And then he started the rap thing. I'm going, all right, well, I didn't know I had an inner Tupac guy with me.
What about his friend Richard Barrett or something like that?
Barrett.
Barrett?
Yes, I've known him for quite a few years as well. He's a uh, my church. I helped get him back into faith, but how that started is Mike was he was at Sirius XM radio, and he mentioned something about was it gay marriage, and he said and he prefaced that we didn't know that my brother and I were listening at the same time because I'm Catholic, but this is probably about 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and we both looked at each other going, dude. And we emailed him, said, do not say you're Catholic, but either take out the Catholic part or take out the but part. But don't do that. And he was very courteous. It was a terrible response. And he responded back, and we started emailing back and forth. And I decided just one day to download all the audio I had at the time, and burn them onto CDs and send it to him. And at that time, it was 12 CDs it took and MP3s. And that was then. Imagine now it's probably 25, 30 to do the whole library. And that's MP3s. I could put 150 on each disc at that time. And lo and behold, I gave him Peter Martyr poems, Miraculous Medals, and the CDs. And like that, overnight, he started talking about the rosary and the scapular. And the sermons just blew his mind. And eventually he got fired from Sirius XM because of it, and started a new radio channel called the Crusade Channel. And one of his guys that he brought on was a guy named Rick Barrett to do a show. And everyone loves Rick. I talked to him a couple of times. He interviewed me on different things. And when I was just one of those things, like I need a point guard. I'm not a point guard as a host. I can respond back, but I'm a color guy. I'm not the play-by-play guy. And I was thinking, who can I get? Rick's been doing this for years. Hey man, you want to do that? You want to do something with us? And he was all in. Bam. And so that was an easy one set up. And we've been talking a lot more ever since, obviously. And then probably about once a week, once a month, I might shoot him a line or something, or I knew of him, but I didn't know him well. And then then we got him on the thing, and again, the whole team just texts each other up and wishes each other good thoughts and good prayers for each other. And it's been a fun group. It's been really good. It's a good group of guys to hang out with.
Pretty cool. It's Fawaz, right? Is that how you say his name? Enoch?
Fawaz.
Yeah. He has a pretty cool tune called Unite the Clans, and he does a shout out to a whole bunch of people, yourself included. And I keep bugging him. He's got to make part 2 and include me, a CVS podcast in there. And he said he'll do it. But the idea of Christian unity today, with the right and the left and the middle and everything else like that, and the online Catholic community, it seems like there's some bridges being built. I try not to get too involved in the online community because it can be toxic sometimes. But do you see that things are coming together? People are more open now to like bridging some of those differences that maybe were just perceived differences between what we would call a rad trad or moderate or a progressive. Do you see any bridges being built?
Yeah, I mean it's weird because I know more, I would just quote unquote just conservative ones, not really quote unquote trad. I have more friends in that circle than I do the trads online. I try almost to stay away from the trads online. Because you're right, we need to do the bridge. We need to. And Garanger writes about that. There's their fathers write about that. They all write about that. You got to lead with charity. It's not programs. It's not. Hey, it's not going up to somebody. It's just like sales. You don't go up to somebody and says, "Hey, you suck. Buy this." I mean, if you want to get somebody to come to the traditional mass, you show them the beauty. You show them this. You show them the love. You don't go, "Hey, what you go to right now, you're a moron." That doesn't win somebody over. And it's just a lot. It's that mindset. I had it at the beginning too, of this almost like an unchecked zeal, and which is your heart's in the right, your mind's in the right place, your heart's in the right place, but you're just doing it wrong in a sense. Again, it goes back to sales. If you were selling a product you're excited about, I can only sell stuff. Really, anybody, you can only sell things that you like, unless you just have no principle and you just care about money. And then you can sell, you do anything. I can never do that. I would always, my dad was like, they taught me that if the product stunk and I told the doc that, hey, don't get this, guy, get this. Because I built his trust. He trusted me. He'd buy more. And the same thing for this on there. And I get guys like Kevin Nestor. He's a solid dude, good friend, and we chatted on DM a lot all the time. He's a former Protestant evangelical pastor, and I mean he posts the New Right calendar all the time and talks about that. Great dude. He's one of those guys. Him and his wife come over tomorrow, and we can hang out all day. Well, just great guy to hang out with. The other guys, sometimes I just want to grab him and slap him upside the head. And but that's me. I'm kind of like that. But it's one of those, all right, what's our goal? Is it about, getting a name for ourselves? Like just the other day, most of the trans were condemning the thing that happened in Florence on Easter. What they light up this firework thing and it comes out and shoots the dove, supposed to be the Holy Ghost, outside the church, and there's a altar outside that basically takes it and shoots it back in. It's cool as anything. And there's thousands of people outside, and it's been around for 1,000 years. But our guys are out there calling it Novus Ordo, modernist, and all this going, man, you guys are just showing that it's all emotion. We don't know our history. And when we do that stuff like that, it makes us not only look dumb, but it hurts the movement. Instead of saying, man, that is really, really cool. I mean, just the guide part. You come out there and we're supposed to be excited for Easter, the resurrection, the greatest thing in the world. And what for us Americans, air quote, Americans, the whole continent's American, but we somehow own that land that we're American. What we do, we just go to mass, we come back, and that's really about it. May have a cook-off, may something, may have a couple beers. Those guys know how to party. It's one of those things. I want to be like that. And if we could incorporate that into what we're doing over here, man, I think we could just night and day difference. But yeah, the bridges, we got to reach out. I'm trying to do anything I can to work with others to draw the people in, because I'm thinking I did an interview with the Diocese of Charleston website and magazine, and I did the pitch 5 years ago, probably around last time we talked, and I got crickets back. And I think I had, I don't know, it was before I got the 100,000 subscribers. Now it's 250. And I was thinking, all right, I got the baseball card stats now. I'm back in the Carolinas. Let me write these guys and say, hey, by the way, one of the top YouTube channels in the world is from your area. They jumped all over that, called me up. The guy that interviewed me is from my home parish in Spartanburg. We had a great talk. He watches the diocese, had me in the newspaper, and I'm going, they blocked me on Facebook years ago for talking about, they had a nun on there. So they were celebrating her birthday. I go, that's a nun? And a question mark. And I was like, really? I didn't know, because you could check cleavage. And I was like, so they got mad at me about that. And I was like, this is never going to work. I was in their magazine last month. Some point, how many newbies just found out about that channel, went to the website, went to the YouTube channel, and I've seen the numbers. It's went up 200,000 views in the last month. So maybe that article did something, and I'll never know. But if more of the normies watch and listen and get hooked, we win in the long term. We win all right, we might not be able to smack around and get somebody to do a TLM tomorrow. Long term, you can't kill ideas. And these people get on fire, and that's the whole purpose. Giving them on fire, as many people from wherever walk of life they can. And we convert people we convert neighborhoods, we convert cities, states. That's how we win. It's not we're ostracizing those guys. It's not we're in this group, This Unite the Clans thing. I got my clan, and there's a lot of them. The Spiritus, you go to Spiritus TV, almost all those guys I know. The guys that don't want on, it's funny, because those are the guys that don't want on are the ones that keep saying Unite the Clans. Well, wait, where's this uniting the clan? You say unite the clan, but in reality, you want to be by yourselves. It's about you, in a sense. It's kind of like the Catholic business page I got on the website. I like the little guys. Rocky, the Eye of the Tiger. They got the fire. They want to do it. It's those guys that want to get out there and try to convert people, and they have the Eye of the Tiger, in a sense. The other guys, I don't know. As one friend of mine told me, I had heard a sermon on Veronica, and it blew me away from 2 years ago. As a priest out in England, Franciscan, talked about how the woman with blood issue is Veronica. Eusebius in his book Against Heresies writes that was Veronica. And I never heard that before. Gave me chills. I sent that to a buddy of mine. He goes, I read Eusebius backwards and forwards. I had forgotten about that. I knew that. And afterwards, he goes, thanks for this one website for telling me all the sins about Francis, but no one ever, how many people knows about that Veronica it was the woman with the
That's pretty well established then.
I'm sorry?
That's well established. That's pretty solid. We can go with that. Take that to the bank. That the woman with the hemorrhages was Veronica.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, mostly it's the Protestants that have the websites on that. Yeah, it's a Eusebius's book. And back then, I tried finding the statue because apparently back wherever she lived, the history of it is they would build a statue to whoever did them a good deed. So there was supposed to be a statue of Christ that she built back then. And that was the whole thing about going with the veil, wiping the blood. It's just the connection of there. And you got Photius, St. Photius. Her whole family became martyrs. She's the Samaritan woman at the well. Yeah.
That's cool.
The entire family's in the Roman martyrology for, I think it's March 23rd, 26th, I think it is. Yeah, look it up. The whole family's in there. Things like that. I want to hear more of. Tell me what, someone's going after the mass. Someone's telling me the Pope's doing this. I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me the good stuff. Like Garanger this week, he's comparing, you always heard, the past. Why do they call it the past? Well, Garanger brings up, he goes, the Passover, the first Passover, the Passover through the Red Sea, and in the Passover in the New Testament, that all happened the same day, and is connected all that. And you're going, holy cow. Things like that should just set our hearts on fire and all this. Really, you want to change somebody? You read stuff like that or get those knowledge and then go out and someone sees you like during the lockdowns, which happened. Why are you so happy? And then you can tell them.
Amazing. You mentioned the Roman martyrology. I haven't looked into it, but the people that I talk to about young earth creationism, they point to that as a historical church document that emphasizes the date of creation. And I don't know how reliable it is, but it puts us at about 7,222 years old. So I like to use that as sort of my ballpark guess about how old the universe is. Do you think there's any weight to that number or to that document for Christmas? I think it's a Christmas thing, right?
Yeah, the Christmas chant. Yeah, the midnight mass chant. It's a beautiful chant. I don't know I don't know how they came up with the numbers. But I would go with, if you have someone that has that versus the 4,000 years one. We're all guessing on those ones.
Okay.
That's at least an idea that you can work with versus 4 to 7,000 to 4 to 7 million.
Right. Right. So we're in the same ballpark. Like.
Yeah. I can live. We can work with that a little bit. I mean, yeah, because you got Advent 1,000 years for each week of Advent, but Garanger gets into that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if that comes at about 7,000 before Christ, I was like, yeah, I can work with that. Other than the billions, billions, and billions.
Well, I'm talking about like from today, it would be 7,222.
Oh yeah. Then that puts it right about 4,000 BC. Yeah.
So that works in with the other common thing, because I'm sure they've done the Old Testament chronologies of the patriarchs to figure out. They're different. They're different manuscripts that would give different calculations, I guess, but they're all roughly within that ballpark, right?
Yeah. My apologies. I wasn't thinking when you said that. I was going with 0 and 7,000. I'm going, okay, well, 7. I didn't think about.
Yeah.
I didn't add it up, but no. If you go from now to 7,000, that pretty much puts it right in. $4,000.
And is there any reason why? Should we give that tradition weight because it was the Roman martyrology? Was it used in the church for hundreds of years, or do you know the history of that document?
Yeah, the monks would sing it. They sing it at during dinners. That's been around for quite some time. I don't know when it was put together or when it was the first publication, if you say, but I'm sure those guys just then throw a dart and go, you know what, let's go with this. And yeah, this sounds cool. These guys did the research. Plus, when you look back at you read all these saints and they talk about how their memory was just fantastic. Like Bellarmine knew the Bible backwards and forwards. He wasn't alone. I mean, a ton of people knew everything, the writings, the saints, the fathers, the Bible, all of that. So these guys knew that. We're like, we have to go to a book and look it up going, all right, what's the argument for that? Who defended it? Didn't defend? What was their arguments? These guys had that. So I would assume that whoever put that together, it was the same. It came from the same cloth, and they're like, we know what these guys said, which we have books on that. but they might have it to memory.
Yeah, it's organic knowledge. But
Yeah.
isn't it also very powerful that the Jews, like, I mean, even though they missed the boat on the Messiah, obviously, but they also date the universe at under 6,000 because they think that it's going to end at 6,000, but it's still
Yeah.
closer than the evolutionists. And
Oh,
the Orthodox, from what I understand, a lot of the Orthodox, not all of them, but a lot of them have a young Earth calendar too. Like they think the universe is young. Do you know
yeah.
anything about the Eastern Orthodox in terms of evolution versus creation? Do you have any finger on the pulse there?
That would be a good one for Eric Ibarra, but I don't even know if they. I don't even think that's a thing with them. I think that's mostly. It seems like what because I know some Byzantine guys. I don't know many. I don't
Okay.
really know any the schismatic guys. I mean, but they use the same calendar per se because their Easter's this week. The Byzantine guys are united. Their Easter's with us. But I've never heard them talk about evolution. I would pure speculation say that if one of our boys went up to them and said something about evolution, they might get punched in the face because I'm thinking the devotion, the big devotion to Theotokos and everything like that, they are not going to come with. It's kind of like what's that book by oh shoot, I forget the name of the book. Everyone Jesus, it's a good catechism. But in it, when it gets into evolution, he goes, it's hard on pious ears to say. And when you hear that, it's going to be like, I like you, but
Yeah. Well, it's like the question I always ask to my Catholic guests who aren't sure about evolution is, and I actually used it on an Orthodox guy recently. I interviewed Robert Spencer. He's Orthodox. Do you know him?
yeah.
He's a big. He doesn't like Islam too much, but he wasn't sure about evolution or creationism, and I just asked him one very simple question: do you believe that the Blessed Virgin Mary is an ape? Yes or no? That'll decide which side of the fence you're on, which side of the issue you're on, right? And he just laughed. He just laughed
Total
because
rejection of the Immaculate Conception.
it's pretty much a slam dunk. You have a friend in the chat called Katie Plus. Katie, do you know her? She says hi to Steve.
Hey, Katie, how you doing? Good to hear from you.
Maybe you know her personally, or maybe just from online.
I don't remember people's handles.
Yeah. So my wife is Greek Orthodox, culturally Greek Orthodox, and she hates the Catholic Church. But her pet peeve is when people convert. She said, you should just have the religion of your parents, and that's it. And my thing is that, like, I'm of Irish descent. My ancestors were Catholic, and if we want to go back further, like, I mean, everyone's got a twisted, winding path of how they got to their worldview. But if you go back far enough, you're going to get to Catholicism always, because if you go back far enough, you'll end up in the Garden of Eden, and they're not Scientologists in the Garden of Eden, right?
No, that's the whole thing about racism. Someone goes, "Oh, you're a racist." I go, "Well, we all come from Adam and Eve, so it's in a sense, it's just stupid just to be that way. We're all, especially the image of likeness. Guy, you say the Saint Patrick breastplate. I mean, come on, it's." But that goes back into me. That's what got Frederick. You ever heard the Frederick Douglass story?
No.
You brought it because of me saying that in the Irish thing. Frederick Douglass got the idea of being free from two Irishmen, Catholics, in Baltimore. He was on the dock, and these two Irishmen that was talking to him, and they found out he was a slave, and they couldn't think of anything like that. It's like, what are you talking about? They brought him back to Ireland, and he's walking around. He writes this in his autobiography, talking about, I go into a church. They don't tell me get out, blank. I go here. They don't yell at me. I go here. They don't do this. And he just gives a litany of places to go to. And he goes, one thing in common with all these people are they're Catholic. Wow, that's a great. You're not going to hear that in school, though.
You'll hear the opposite. But I was very hung up the past couple of years about the whole colonization of the Indigenous Peoples of America and all this sort of thing. I just got sort of annoyed by it, like the mistreatment of the Aboriginal peoples here in Canada. Like a lot of them today don't have clean drinking water, which I find is a real travesty. But it's not newsworthy. No one really seems to care. So my friend who works for the Colby Center, he told me about a book that talks about some of the Jesuit missionaries that came, I guess the second wave or whatever, that came in the mid 1800s. And it's really wonderful. I hope it's true, because it really paints a nice picture of the church and the church's relationship with the native peoples in the US of A. And you know, it's focused mainly in Missouri, and then it moves to the Rockies. I don't know how far Missouri is from the Rockies, but my point is that the book portrays these people. It's the biography, by the way, of Father De Smet or De
The
Smet.
Smith, yeah,
Yeah,
Pierre the Smith, got him on the wall right there.
so you know the story.
Oh yeah, I've seen his casket. There's a museum of him in St. Louis.
Ah,
I'm a
really?
big fan of him. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, I hope it's all true. I mean, hopefully you can fill in the gaps for me, but it really paints a good picture of the relationship between the church and the Aboriginals. And these people were really thirsty for the truth. A lot of them, especially, I guess, I'm just reading now the part about the Flatheads, and they
Yes.
were really thirsty for the truth, and they were wanting priests, and they had a hard time getting one, and they waited for 8 years, and finally, I think someone was sent from Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. That's where I am. And so it's really touching. And can we have a reasonable amount of hope that this isn't just propaganda, Catholic propaganda? Is it true?
Oh yeah, you good. You good. I got people that gone to the shrine and taken photos of that. I mean, his first mass was in Western Wyoming. Almost went to it. They still got a stone
Monument, like?
marker for that for the Schmidt. Yeah, the Schmidt went from St. Louis to Montana and back multiple times on horseback, which is an incredible journey. It's hard in a car. Could you imagine that on a horse? And then not on top of riding back and forth on the Great Pond going to France and back. Yeah, the Schmidt stories, man, I love that. That dude, I mean, wasn't the Mohawks, which it was the Hurons, I think it was, that saw him, and these are the ones that people are going, these guys would kill you. These, you read this, you go to school and they're going, stay away from these guys. Basically, that's what you get from going to stay run indoctrination camps. They see him, put him on their shoulders, process him around, call him the Great Father. Lips who cease not to pray was the name for him. Kind of like Dancing with Wolves. His lips cease not to pray. One time he was trying to find a lost daughter, and he told him, "Oh, we're going to say a couple masses, and this is what's going to happen." And they didn't believe it. And she ended up coming back, and they loved him for that. Needed rain. He asked for some rain. After a couple masses, it rained. So I mean, it's obviously just like the North American martyrs. You had to fight with the little skull, little weirdo guys, the medicine men. But man, these tribes love that guy. I mean, it was one of those, like, you can picture it. You read that book, it's like a movie. You picture him riding up, and the guys with him, like, hey, Father, watch out. And he goes, don't worry. And he sits there and smokes it up with these guys for all night long. They have a party. Like the Indians, they wrote a letter to one tribe wrote a letter to Pius IX, and they responded back. He responded back, and they partied for a week before they read it. They were just happy that they got a letter. And there's photos of him with, let's see, it was about 9 or 10, maybe 10 or 11 tribes. It's still on YouTube, Google. You can look up the photo. It's him and about 9 chiefs. They go to DC, and I can't remember what they went to DC for, but come to find out is USS Grant wanted to kick the Catholics out and shove in the Protestants, because they knew if they got that, they would dismantle the tribes. And you can thank the good old US of A for destroying the tribes, because all those guys were Catholic, and they knew better. From the Black Robe, there's stories of when the missionaries, the Methodists and things like that would hear about them, and they would come out and with their wives, and the Indians would go, not you. One, where's a robe? Two, they don't have wives.
And the crucifix, too. They wanted the crucifix.
They were telling them to get scramby, get out of here. Yeah, you read those stories. It's big. It's just edification on that, because then you hear about the morals of them. That they would have like a city, like a city market, and whatever people would take, they would leave their currency on the table, and it would be nobody was at the table. Honor system. Nobody stole. Nobody did this. And at the end of that chapter, it's in that book. It mentions, he goes, these are the savages. They, like other people from the eastern states, when they saw this, goes, these are the savages we're supposed to fear. They were more civil, as they said, they were more civilized than we were. And it's because the Catholic missionaries were out there and they were trying to convert them, and they were. And it's from the North American martyrs, St. Isaac Jones, the sacrifice from those guys, St. Katira, all of them. especially with the flatheads. Wow, that story's just cool too.
Well, don't tell me too much because I'm just getting to the part with the flatheads now. But the word savage is not a negative word. It just means those who live in the woods. That's all it
Right,
means.
right.
But it has the
Yeah.
connotation, just like the N word. Like I don't mind using the N word because it's just like I'm not white and these people are not black. It's obvious. Like I'm pink or yellow or whatever, and
Yeah.
they're not black. But it's
Yeah.
just the N word just means black, and it's not a big deal. But they're all the negative connotations where we want to insert hatred in there, and it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's the
Change the meanings,
same
because I
thing.
think the original word means dumb, basically like dumb or not knowledgeable, something like that.
Which word?
It was like stupid or something like this. But I mean, what's the Seminole? You know the Seminole, right?
From the seed.
Well, no, Seminole. Yeah, well, that I mean, but the Seminoles in Florida State Seminoles.
No, I don't know.
The Florida State University is nicknamed the Seminoles. How they got their name was from the fort at St. Augustine. It was all Catholic and there was all Indians there. And there was a general, I can't remember his name. He's from South Carolina. And because I'm doing the history of the states, and eventually I'm going to get started on Florida and go up to the East Coast. And I already got the Southwest taken care of. And this general from South Carolina that hated Catholics went down to the mission, killed all the priests, and the Indians were wandering around, Seminole wandering around. They didn't have a father. They were just off to themselves. Some got slaughtered, some lost their lives, just depend. But that was it. They go after the priests and they'll scatter the flock. And it just shows, yeah, whatever you were taught in school about the relationship between the white man and the Indian. No, there was nothing but love. And you hear that from New Mexico. I mean, sure, there was martyrs at first. There's a book of all the martyrs before was that 15, 17, I think it's the name of the book. And you hear about the guys getting tomahawked right off the boat in Florida. I mean, the blood was already being spilled on the land. But yeah, just you keep pounding away, and eventually you soften their hearts, and they come in. And how did they do that? I mean, did they tweet it? Did they call them names? It's it's amazing how we used to do that, and we were able to convert people that would eat people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, they were really pushed west. I guess you know the story much better than I do. I'm just learning about it now. But they were really pushed west, and their livelihood was taken away. And they mixed with other tribes that hated them, and these sorts of things. And they were starving, eating their own young, and stuff like that. Allegedly.
And then when they found out that they didn't like whiskey, or they were going to be screwed up by whiskey, the Protestant government sent them whiskey.
Exactly. Yeah, and the Catholics were trying to tell the government, hey, this is happening, can you stop it? And it's just hands-off policy there. So it really is dark, it really is dark. But I'm very happy. I'm happy to be on the good guys team, and I feel a little bit bad for the way that the Protestants are portrayed in this book. But if it's true, I mean, it's just like, we know that the fullness of the faith is the Catholic faith, and we know that with error comes propensity for lies and for satanic stuff. So even if you're a part of another Christian community, it's dangerous. Like that's why God wants us in the safety of the ark. That's why he wants us in the Catholic Church, because we can love our Christian brothers and sisters who aren't Catholic, but they are in danger. And what that danger means is that they are prey to the snares and the pumps and the traps of Satan, right? So,
yeah, the violence isn't like it used to be. I mean, there's a book that Father, oh man, he's a priest in Australia. He wrote on the Reformation back, or the Revolution, and Ireland, what they did in Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and just Wales in general, and then in some parts of Europe, the Calvinists especially. And it is, I mean, NC-17 rated. It's a horror what they did. I mean, and that goes back into the States. I mean, this is during a time when the Puritans came over and said, banning Christmas because there's too papist. The cathedral one was in Philadelphia. If you look at it, the windows were up top and not at the ground level because the rocks were getting thrown into churches. So they made it so that they're high enough so you couldn't throw rocks and to destroy the cathedrals, because so churches. John Hughes, remember when they talked about it, he comes into the city, the governor or the mayor, and says, if one Catholic church burns down, I will make this anew. I can't remember the name of the city, but he was going to say, I'm going to take all the Catholics and burn this city down if this doesn't stop. I mean, there was a lot of anti-Catholic. There's a book called Anti-Catholicism in the colonies of America. I got the book in the other room, and it is gruesome what they did to us. I mean, it's not like that anymore. But let me go with that and what happened in, like the South Carolina, Florida thing. Georgia, the state of Georgia was created to be a buffer state to keep the Catholics from going up the coast. So that's why they went along to Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. There was a buffer. They put a buffer state to keep them from coming up. The Klan. Where do you think they got their garb? That's from the penitents out in during Semana Santa week when they come out with their garb and babies get dressed for it, kids get dressed for it, and it's supposed to be we're all made in the image of light. We're all the same. We're all united. There's no one that's special. That's the whole covering. They hide their personality, hide their skin basically, because we're all made in the image and likeness of God, and we're all equal. And the Klan took it and spun that around. Where do you think they get that idea? It wasn't just like, hey, what do we think about this costume? No, they hated the Spaniards, Florida. they were taking their stuff, what they were used to, and use it against them for fear. And it just takes a special person to do stuff like that.
Wow, it's pretty incredible. I wonder, do you have a lot of contact with Protestants on your on your online stuff? Do you actually invite them on to talk, or because I've had quite a few on mine.
Quite some time. Back when I had more time, I remember this one group would ask me to come on and do it was 4 against 1. That was the one. I had a good time. That was long time ago. I don't know what those guys are up to. Really, my wife and I would do like festivals and hand out miraculous medals and things like that. Now it was her idea too, and it's a good idea. Is the focus has been on us. Let's get the base stronger.
Yeah.
It's convert the Catholics, because if we get more on fire, more knowledgeable, that's more people evangelize and bringing people in instead of one person trying to do it. What if we got 50,000 doing it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's the way to do it for sure. It's amazing. It's amazing to me, honestly. It's really amazing to me that more people aren't Catholic, because if you have the sort of disinterested attitude, the love of truth, and you just examine history, you examine metaphysics, you examine philosophy, theology, and you don't need a PhD, you don't need a million degrees. You just need to sort of take the time and the space to think about your worldview, whatever it is. Like if you're Muslim or Jew or Protestant or whatever, just think about it and find the weaknesses and sort of try to find out what's going on, what's your foundation, and these sorts of things. It seems to me that it's not that hard of a journey, but the main complicating factor, I think, is human respect. Oh, what do my neighbors think? What do my parents think? And what is my grandma going to think? My grandmother's going to be spinning in her grave. There's too much human respect, I think. I think that's the key.
Oh, yeah. No one wants to do it because they'll lose their friends. I mean, I made friends that I lose when I was Catholic then, even though Catholic, I was a moron Catholic. I would go, I remember being a trivia and someone said, all right, the topic is Bible. And they would go, he's Catholic. And I go, what? I don't know anything. So, I mean, I was already in, but then I started learning, started acting and being it for a change. None of those guys talk to me anymore. So you're going to lose. That's what the whole Coming Home Network is. I mean, how many former Protestants, pastors are doing that? And they're going, that's my livelihood. If I convert, I lose my income. So that's not just human respect, but that's how do you survive afterward? That's what the Coming Home Network is about, helping those guys out, because the guy that started, I think he was a former minister as well. And they just figured it out. And there's other groups that are trying to get these guys jobs and things like that. So there's a lot of human respect. Will I lose my state, wherever I'm at? Will I lose my cush job? Will I lose my job? There's a lot of factors, but then our Lord says, was it do the profit of the world to gain the whole profit of the whole world and lose your soul? But it's easier said than done.
It's amazing. Is Marcus Grodi still around? Is he still kicking
Yes,
around?
that's him. Marcus Grodi, yeah.
Is he still around?
I guess. I haven't watched it quite some time.
His son took over the show, but I'm wondering if he's in good health and if he's around. I'd love to talk to him.
He would be I watched a ton of that stuff when I was coming back in, just because time-wise, literally, I mean, the people ask me, what do you listen to? And so when I'm working out, I'm listening to secular podcasts for news. And when I'm putting stuff together, I'm listening to sermons all week and putting things together. I don't have time to listen to other things unless it's really, really good. And I'll put it in the watch later list that when I work out or something, that's my time to hear other things. I just don't sit back and get popcorn and do it.
Yeah.
I ain't got no time.
Yeah. But he's amazing. That was one of the best things I've seen on the internet, was that coming home thing. And the beautiful thing about it is it's a paradoxical thing, because everyone is so unique. Each of one of God's creatures is so unique. And I listened to Protestant radio today. They were talking about how we are stones in the building of God. We're not bricks in the building of God. We're stones. Each stone is unique. I thought it was a nice touch. But we're so unique. And the Coming Home Network, if you watch the conversion stories, each person is so unique and their journey is so unique. But paradoxically, it's always the same thing. It's always the same story. It's the same thing. It's authority, 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 authority. That's what it is. They may say it a little bit differently each time, but it's always authority. And it's so amazing. It's so amazing to watch these journeys. And when people realize that, hey, you know what? I don't want to be the Pope in my one-man religion. I don't want to be this sole intermediary between the Holy Ghost and, whatever. So it really is very, very simple coming into the apostolic religions. Now, some people will say, well, Orthodox is better than Catholic and we don't want your Pope and whatever. But to me, it's like close enough. If you could come into the Orthodox faith, I think you're pretty much 99% of the way there, right? I would celebrate that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a little bit of just thinking that the old church fathers didn't say anything about the papacy, and they did. Gonorrhea J writes about that a couple of days ago. He quotes, I think it was Damison, St. John Damison. I think it has a quote from him on the papacy, and was it just last Sunday? He has one on it too. He goes after it. Goes, here's another one from the church fathers. And it's just one of those things too. It's just, all right, there it is. What are you gonna do about it? And,
yeah. Well, we don't want it, but we don't want him, but you got him. But someone said something. I think it was Robert Spencer said to me during my interview of him. He said that, yeah, we recognize the Bishop of Rome and that he has primacy of honor. Yes, but he's in schism, and I didn't realize at the time the implications of his saying that that the Pope is in schism. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, because schism is defined as separating yourself from the Pope. The Pope cannot be in schism.
Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just got to go, what? Yeah. So we split from ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It doesn't make any sense. Like, you could say, like the Sedevacantists say, okay, the Pope's a heretic or whatever. It's like, so what? I mean, I do care. I'll pray for him, whatever. But I mean, first of all, that's a pretty grave accusation. You better have some solid proof. And, but in principle, I don't have a problem. They always bring up Bellarmine, and Bellarmine said you can't be the head if you're not part of the body, and all these sorts of things.
I got all of Bellarmine's books. It's about yay long if you put them all together. And they quote probably about it's a little paragraph out of all that.
Yeah. Is he fun to read, Bellarmine?
Yes. He's got a great sense of humor. And there's one. He goes after Luther. He's talking about miracles, and he gives jab at Martin Luther. Says about he's never performed a miracle, and he literally goes, "Oh wait, my fault. He did perform a miracle." And you're reading it because you hear the sarcasm. He was it was so cold, and he was in a tin can, dead, and he stunk so bad in the middle of winter that they couldn't move him in an airtight tin can. ... Hence the only miracle of Martin Luther.
Well, I read on Twitter. Twitter's not all bad, because I read on Twitter recently about a quote from Luther. I don't know if it's true or not. You can tell me maybe if you know. But it said that Luther told his mother, it's easier to live as a Protestant, but better to die as a Catholic. Do you think there's any truth to that?
It was his BFF. It was what's his face? What was his name? Can't think. It was the guy, right hand man. Is I can picture him, I can draw you to him, and when I get done, I'll remember his name. But if you look up Martin Luther, and it was the two guys that got together, and they were both agreeing in the polygamy idea with one of the Landgraf of Hesse, and Melanchthon, Philip Melanchthon.
Okay.
It was him that said that about his wife, and he was right. Yeah, it's better to die a Catholic. That was, yeah, and he was a Lutheran.
Okay, so it wasn't Luther himself, it was Luther's second guy.
Yeah. Luther, by that time, Luther hated everything Catholic. And then if you didn't agree with Luther, you were a Protestant, he hated you too.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a dark period in our history, and King Henry VIII, he came along. How long after was that Henry VIII came along? Do you know?
It was Luther first, and a few years later, but then Henry went that because Henry wrote a book on the sacraments that they think that John Fisher wrote, but it's under Henry VIII's name, and that's what got him. That's what got him the line of Fides Defensor, the defender of the faith, which is still on the coin, still used today for the king or queen of England. I got the book. It is a fantastic book. And he just goes through the sacraments, which is ironically, he's really good on marriage. Did you read your own stuff?
So he was just signing his name to St. John Fisher's work.
They say that Fisher probably wrote that, but it's Henry. Henry wasn't a moron either. I mean, he knew his stuff, and then that was his thing. It was his way of defending the faith against Luther. That was a direct contract going after him. And years later, yeah, he got a little insane.
Okay. When he signed off on Fisher's thing, he was a Catholic.
Oh yeah. That's what got him. The Pope gave him the Defender of the Faith logo.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought you were saying that's why he became the head of the Anglican, the Church of England, or whatever.
No. Yeah, that was after he lost it years later.
That's a self-proclaimed thing where they're the head of they just impose that on themselves, like.
Yeah, he was it because he wanted to be get the annulment, get the divorce, and then Mary, which she gets the name Bloody Mary. She wasn't really bloody. She was very, very. She got rid of some heretics. Probably a good idea. But she reestablished a lot of peacetime. They were trying to assassinate her many times. You can see that there's a book on her about this. I think it's called Bloody Mary, I think it is. And Michael Davies does a couple podcasts on that, the John Fisher series. And then after her, then Queen Elizabeth came in, and she made sure she was the head. And that was when everything, what broke loose after that.
No,
it was bad under Henry, but it got really bad under Elizabeth.
She said no Catholics obviously no Catholics on the throne.
That was the one of the first things she did was basically she told the priest not to elevate the host, and when he did, she walked out, and then it was on like Donkey Kong after that.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it was snap the finger, all right, you're dead. But her sister got the Bloody Mary thing because it's just like the Fox's Book of Martyrs, which were written by Protestants. It talks about how gruesome that we did, and there's no record of any of that anywhere. But that was a day you couldn't Google, you couldn't check it out. You just took your book as word, and it was trying to get the emotion going.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what happened? Not that you're an expert on Anglicanism or Church of England, but I'm wondering, when did they lose the orders, holy orders in the priesthood? That was like sort of within the past couple of decades, wasn't it? Like they had holy orders according to the Catholic Church for quite a while.
Yeah, read Leo. Leo's got a encyclical on that topic. It's on the website too. It's Michael Davies talking about that from Leo XIII, and on Anglican orders. You can type that in, and you'll have an hour and 50 minutes, I think it is. He digs deep on that.
It's pretty strange to think about it, right? That they sort of were an apostolic church for some time, and they just went too far. They could have gone the other way, and I guess there is that sort of backdoor into the Catholic Church. Do you remember what it's called, where the Vatican set up a special entry point?
Anglican ordered it.
Yeah. Is that a good thing overall? That's a pretty good thing.
Oh yeah. That was the Isle of Saints. I mean, just think about it. King Henry would lead. Was it to walk into Walsingham? The bishop was it the king would lead or the bishop would lead? Anyway, it was after, maybe it was the bishop that was leading first, but the king and queen would be behind them on their knees, walking into Walsingham for mass. I mean, these guys were devout. I mean, even afterwards with Becket and was it Henry the second? Yeah, he did the bad thing with on Thomas Becket calling for his execution. I guess blessing disguise, obviously, because then afterwards he's repenting at publicly at his tomb. I mean,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they were so devout. I mean, for that to happen, it's if they say if he would have not done it, they would have killed the Protestant would have died. Henry was the key. They would have if he would have gotten his head back on or not done that, Protestantism would have ended.
Wow.
But devil got them.
I heard a strange rumor on Twitter that when Hitler was 4, he almost drowned, but a Catholic priest saved him, and this is like God had a plan for Hitler. You know, there's a lot of anti-Semitism and hatred towards the Jews on the internet, right? So I take everything with a grain of salt, obviously, but what do you think about that little rumor there? Have you heard anything about that, or
I've never heard that one. I mean,
what would you
obviously,
think if that were the case? What would you think? Like, how would that fit in with your worldview?
well, if a priest saved them from drowning, that's a priest's job to save souls, save them,
It was a pro-life. It was a pro-life priest.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't wish somebody dead, and you see somebody drowning, okay, you help them out. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you could have that whole philosophy idea of well, if they would have done this and that, and they would have saved all this. No, you can't think
We
that. You
can't
can't
do
do
evil.
evil for good.
Yeah.
So you have to, moral obligation to save the human. Um, yeah, I have never heard that before. I mean, I always heard about the inaccurate idea of Pius XII being Hitler's pope, which totally insane and inaccurate. And finally, there's been a lot more commentaries on that to correct that unhistorical line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, you can. There's. It's kind of like it reminds me of that whole thing when they were trying to make Benedict with the whole cut off side and had the line, his hand up when really he's like this, and they Photoshop and do that. And
Hitler Youth and all that. Yeah, Hitler Youth. But there's supposed to be a movie coming out, I thought, a couple of years ago about Pius XII and like sort of painting a good picture about his effort during the war.
there was one a couple of years ago. I got it. It's on the website. Check out Pius Pius XII, Hitler's Pope. There's a guy that does a lecture. KeepTheFaith.org did a interview or a presentation on it, and he talks about a DVD that was a book that they made into a movie that was accurate on it and showed it in the but he also shows about what they got wrong and what they were doing and what these guys were trying to portray and things like that, and all the Jewish converts that came in because of Pius, and how many took his name.
Even the rabbi came in. Of
Yes,
Rome, the rabbi of Rome, right?
yes, yes. But it just shows that the media hates us, the state hates us. They will do anything they can to. Well, you mentioned the Canadian thing. I mean, that whole thing was an anti-Catholic movement.
With the tree roots, dead babies. What you talking about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They burned down.
Hey, we got nuns having babies
churches?
and this going on, and we're going, wait a minute, find this. But they do that all the time, and that's one of the things that no one ever questions. It's that line of question everything, unless it's Catholic. They just believe it.
Yeah.
If it's against the Catholics, then believe it. Don't ask any questions after that.
Yeah. Well, it's very controversial with the Jews, and I always tend to err on the side of like Jew worship because I do worship a Jew. I worship Jesus and Mary, and I do worship the Jews, but the true Jews, and St. Paul talks about spiritual Jews versus carnal Jews, and of course, how I moderate my enthusiasm for all things Jewish is to say, well, the Jews today, they completely deny Jesus as Messiah. They missed the boat on the Messiah. That's kind of a big deal, right? But Romans 11 says they're going to come back in at the end, and it's part of God's plan. So how do you deal with all the anti-Semitism? Like I'm a fan of Nick Fuentes. I like the guy. I think he's nice, but he's very controversial, and I think he's misunderstood. But I think he likes being misunderstood. But he really hates the fact that the Jews don't accept Jesus as the Messiah. I just accept the fact. I think it's part of God's plan, and I trust God's plan, and I still consider myself a dog eating the crumbs of the Jews under the table of the Jews. So I don't have any hatred in my heart for the Jews. And Fuentes says the same thing. He doesn't have any hatred for anyone because that's not Catholic, that's not Christian. He just wants the leaders of the West to be Christian like they used to be. So he's got sort of a conservative idea about that. But how do you handle the anti-Semitism? Do you think it's purely satanic, or do you think there's a positive side to it? If you read about some of the saints, they were harsh on the Jews too, some of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're very hard on them. Yeah, there was a rabbinic the Judaism now, as this one priest says, the redheaded stepchild of actual Judaism. It was a creation back in the first century, second century. Uh, and I mean, the Muslims are kinder to us on Mary and our Lord than they are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I think of I got Alphonse Rathburn over there, and the story about he was a Jewish businessman in Rome, and a guy that just gave him a miraculous medal, asked him to say the Memorare, and all of a sudden he converts and he started an order based on his order was on the conversion of the Jews. But just like everyone else, we should be able to wanting to convert everybody. And how do you do it? Everyone's got a different idea. Everyone's got a different plan to do it. It's all about your personality, what ideas you want to do. You can invite them in your home, give them medals, pray for them. Obviously, we pray for them. That's everyone. But it's just all different ideas. The anti-Semitism stuff, I don't even listen to Nick because I don't have time. I actually have no idea which I don't think I've ever heard. I know of him, but I've never heard I don't even know his voice. But yeah, it's there's no hate. You hate the evil. You hate evil. You love the person. You hate the error. So he'll probably agree with that. He loves the Jewish man, but he hates the Jewish error. So yeah, it's just one of those we pray for their souls. I mean, it's one of the prayers on Good Friday that was taken out of the pre-50 from the liturgical reforms of pre-55 and the 62, and after the 62 they took that out, and obviously the new mass they got that taken out too. We used to pray for those guys on mass, and now we don't. It's the false ecumenism idea of we're all good, we're just meeting where they are, and all. What are we doing? I don't know. Like it goes back to Fulton Sheen and Billy Graham. I have no idea what Fulton Sheen did to Graham. If he tried to bring him in, I'm pretty sure he probably did, because he was a good friend of his, and you kind of like scratch your head, like how come he didn't get him in? You got all these other guys. What happened with Graham? But he goes into Graham. Could have been human respect. He was he was wealthy. He's in Charlotte. He's got a huge library. Sola Scriptura, the Billy Graham Library. It's a real thing. It's ginormous. Wait a minute, Sola Scriptura? You got a library? Come on, be consistent here. Yeah, we do what we can, and then we leave it in, as Colby said, leave it in the Immaculate's hand after that.
So it's a very slow process trying to figure out what to do with Bishop Fulton Sheen and his body and all that. Is that resolved now?
No, I don't think it is. What's his face? I can hook you up with him. He works for the Fulton Sheen website. Great dude. He knows all that backwards and forwards.
Yeah. Like hook me up for sure. Yeah, send me all the interesting guests you can for sure. But there was some controversy. I heard a few things. I don't want to badmouth him because I love him so much, but I heard a few things like maybe he was. There's some indications like Devil's Advocate was digging up stuff like that he may have exaggerated some of his credentials, or bragged or boasted or something too much about his accomplishments or something like that. Again, this is not to bash him or to speak ill of the dead, because I think he's a wonderful, wonderful Catholic, and I think he's a saint. But we're all human, and I guess it's more the Holy Spirit that's going to decide who to canonize and who not to. I believe it's an infallible decision that comes down. I've met some Catholics who are on the conservative side who don't want to admit that St. John Paul II or Paul VI were saints. And so they just reject the idea that it's an infallible pronouncement of the church. What do you think?
Bellarmine, Alphonsus, Francis de Sales, quite a few doctors of the church, the Hall of Famers, they say it's an infallible thing. And it's borderline heresy to believe on the other way.
Okay.
And I had another friend tell me, he goes, all right, let's pretend that it did. If he's in heaven, and first off, wouldn't the devil be laughing that someone in hell is on our altar? One, just common sense. Two, if he's in heaven, what do you think he's doing? Think he's praying, man, I really hope it doesn't change down there. He's probably praying for everything that, man, I screwed that up. And they always say, I think with the last three, they said it wasn't about the papacy, especially JP2. They said it was about his personal life. And what they praying for? They're probably praying for the restoration of Christendom. They're probably praying to help us out. They're not praying, man, I hope this continues. I enjoy. Let's get the popcorn up here ready on this. Watch what happens here. They're hoping. They're on our side. It's, not saying, all right, you have to go up there and pray to Pope Paul VI and say that, you're the biggest devotee of ever. But yeah, maybe send him and shoot him a line, or say thank you or whatever. Please pray for this. Help us out of this mess. And maybe he'll be for that. It's better than the alternative of just I'm going to tweet how bad these is. I'll do it. It's we got the weapons. For those guys that you talk about the sediment contest stuff, hold on to every word the Pope says, tweets, breeze, whatever. Mm-hmm. Man, if we would have done that to all the other popes in history of the world, history of the church, how many would they have kicked out? And first off, how much time do you have to listen? Just don't listen. Just back before internet, you had no idea who the Pope was. You might think it was by the time you figured out he was dead. And then you got a new one. You don't know what he ate in the rotunda. You don't know what he ate for lunch, much less, hey, who's he talking to this week? I don't know. I'm trying not to get starve. I don't have my courier coming across the Atlantic in 5 months to get through the weeds and find me in a remote section of the United States to hand me a letter and for me to, I like this Pope.
Well, I often think about my favorite saints, and it's just a fact. It's just a fact of human nature that my chemistry with my favorite saints is going to be hit and miss. It's going to be, I would need to meet them when they're walking the earth, when they had their frailties, they had their own, weaknesses, and they had their own personality defects or whatever. I would need to meet them, spend time with them to know if I actually had good chemistry with them. It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed, right? It's not guaranteed. Some of the saints didn't even get along with each other. Right?
Yeah.
So people are people.
Jerome and Augustine were head to head. They were like this.
Yeah. This side of heaven, it's not like we can romanticize even the saints, because we don't know. We don't know what the chemistry would be. Now in heaven, of course, we're going to have good chemistry with everyone, right?
Yeah.
So that's a different thing.
Yeah, and it's just relax. This anxiety is a double playing with our emotions. It gets us the double plays and troubled waters, and so you just get out of it. You learn to love more, charity, caritas, love and pray more. You're praying always. You're reading less blogs if you're praying always. Think about the Desert Fathers. Garanger writes about that about Easter, because they mandated. There was one time they'd leave their cells with Sundays. They mandated that they come over to celebrate Mass. And he said on one Easter there was 50,000 desert monks coming to one church. I think there's 2 out there right now. So it's just where's our target? You're running hard, as Augustine's line. You're running hard, but on the wrong road. Is that the fight you want to do, or is it what's your motive? You want to try to convert people, or you want to show? Because if people are online looking at things and you type in Pope, and they see all this hate going on over what? How many people are going to say, you know what? I like this guy. I'm going to keep following. I'm going to look at it. It goes back to sales. How do you sell somebody? How do you sell that? You don't. There's people coming in. We could have more if we were. And I got this idea of all the traditional church parishes should have convert their neighborhoods. Their neighborhoods around them. They all should be coming in there. And if they're not, what are we doing? There was a Noah's Ordo parish. It was diocese parish down in Blythewood. He's now in the coast of South Carolina. He offered me a job for $30,000 or do something with the youth ministry. I gave it back to him. I told him, so you said to build an actual church here. But he had a plan. They were putting ads in the newspaper, free ads in the free newspaper about apologetics. What is the papacy? What is the Eucharist? He showed me a board, and he drew out the land around the church, and everyone that goes to that parish had points up, and he dictated, you are in charge of this section, I wrote this section, and he handed them stuff like fish fries. Every week they had something. Put this on their door, bring them in. And he was successful bringing them in. Now, the problem it was one of those starting lineup masses. Welcome, everybody, to Transfiguration Catholic Church. Here's your starting lineup. It's the same priest we've had for the last 5 years. You know his name, Father. And then, at altar girl, she has curls. It's Susie. Something like that. It's just so cringe. And, they got the band up front. And before before the seventh inning stretch, they get up and say, now look at your neighbor and shake their hands and say hi. I remember there was a lady there that had a veil on, and I almost went to her and go, how'd you get in here? The guy next to you is sitting there with his cross-leg in a golf shirt. Well, hey, we got to get this going. We got a tea time coming up in 45 minutes. The guy had a great plan.
Yeah.
But it was an awful product he had. I mean, what's the difference between that and the Baptist church and the J-Dubs down the street and this? If he had a reverent mass, even had a reverent Novus Ordo mass, he would have converted that entire city.
Wow.
But it was just, I mean, wow. I can't do this. There's no way. I mean, he asked me to come down. I remember him asking me to come down. And he was like, "Oh, we'll have mass, and then we'll go get something to eat." Okay, sure, fine. And there was nobody in the parish except me. And he's giving a sermon looking at, I'm over here.
Oh, God.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And he asked me to read back then. I remember he asked me to read first and only time I ever did that. And I'm reading, and you're facing chairs. And I was like, you serious with this? And even then, I had no idea about the traditional mass, but I'm going, this doesn't make any sense.
Oh man, I wish that the parishes, just the local parishes, would just try to make a little bit of outreach. I really do, and not even with an explicit view to conversion, but the priest. If you read the canon law, the priest is supposed to know his flock in his parish, and do regular visits and these sorts of things. I know it's just a guideline, and it's hard in today's modern age to actually go and actually physically in real life meet people. That's sort of awkward for people today, but that is in canon law. Like, they're supposed to get to know the flock, Christian or otherwise. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're your responsibility, and if they're sick or if they have needs, and you're supposed to care for these people. And I don't see that happen. I've never seen that happen in any parish.
You read about it in the books. I know some priests that do walk, like Father Carney. He walks the streets out in St. Joseph, Kansas. But it's kind of like secular wise too. The police, they used to walk the beat.
Yeah,
everybody knew the cop.
Yeah,
and he talked about. I remember, was it Jocko that brought that up, or someone else talked about when they were talking about all the police proms? If they would get out of the cars and start walking the beat, you talk about the proms that would go down because everybody would know each other and you wouldn't have this problem at the personal level. Yeah, you're right. It's hard right now because usually, like, I know in some areas, one priest might have 3 parishes, or I mean, there's some parishes that have 4 or 5 priests. They're rare, but it's kind of like, what do you want? Do you want to? What do you do you know what you are? Are you willing it? Are you wanting to do it? And then it's just get that fire in you to go do it. I can't tell all the priests what to do. I mean, God knows I could always do more, but when you get the 3 or 4 priests, that might be different. And I know some mainly traditional priests that do go around. And even there's one in Tryon. He's a diocese priest, but he's very traditional minded, Third Order Dominican, and he'll go through. It's a little mountain town. Everybody knows him. The downside is it's only about 60 people. But I remember doing a procession there. This was cool. About 12 years ago, St. John the Baptist procession. They closed the street down. The cops closed the street down for a procession. We had about 300 or 400 people in it, wheeling a statue of St. John the Baptist down Main Street. People are tailgating outside their tailgate chairs. And we had the relic and everything. People were waving handkerchiefs. We got the altar boys procession. It was a cool night. And I was thinking, man, the entire city is out here watching us do a procession. Not just, you see from regular parish processions, they might go around the perimeter of church. They went through downtown, closed the streets down, went through the park, downtown, and came back through. I know now, I think there's some that do it because it's literally downtown, but they closed off the street and wheeled a 9-foot St. John the Baptist statue in the middle of the Bible Belt.
amazing. We need more of that for sure. There is a Portuguese church here in town, and I know they have a festival. They do some processions and stuff like that. It's beautiful
Yeah.
to see. But with these ethnic communities, it's so closed. It's so closed. So everyone else just looks in like, oh, look at the Portuguese. They don't think like, look at the Catholics. They're thinking it's the Portuguese. A lot of the ethnic communities, they're beautiful, but they are sort of closed communities like that. But have you heard about the hipster priest in Boulder, Colorado? I actually met him in Boulder. You were in Denver, right?
When I was in Denver, I went to Boulder a couple times, dropped people off, and I remember the St. Thomas
Yeah,
Center.
exactly. Yeah.
I
Did you
think
meet
I
him?
heard. I'm sorry. No,
Long
I
hair and a
didn't meet.
beard. You never met him?
I know exactly who you're talking about, but no, I did. I've never met him. No, I know
Okay.
exactly who you're talking about. Now I just said that.
Yeah, he seemed like a good guy. I don't know if he was like very progressive or what. I mean, it would seem, by the appearances, but you never know. He might have been conservative or good.
There
I
was some
don't know.
Paris out there. I had the I still got the Mass Times app because I would post where am I at? Is there a mass going on around this time, especially if it was slow? And there was this one parish in southeast Denver, um, and it was one of the circular space shuttle churches. And I'm, yeah, I just started shaking my head, and Father started. He was Polish, and he started giving the best extra ecclesiam salus sermon I've ever heard. And I'm looking
Wow.
around, going, pinch me. Am I hearing this right?
Cool.
Me in the back, question from the back, is this real? And then I'm looking at it going, I wonder how many other people here are thinking, I wonder what these guys are thinking right now.
You should have talked to them after the mass.
I was so stunned, I couldn't move.
He put the fear of hell into you too at the same time.
I was just stunned. I was floored. I was like, I wanted to give him a big hug and applause, but it was like, all right, no applause. Keep your butt down here. But I was like, wow, that's really going on?
That's pretty cool.
Okay. He was a solid preacher.
I've never heard that in all my years. I've only been, since 2009, I've been Catholic, but I've never heard that. I would love to hear that. One of the worst, not to bash the bad experiences I've had, but when I was in Las Vegas, of all places, it was sort of like a very hyped up vibe in the Catholic Mass, and like, hey, how are you, and whatever, and where are you from, and they are aware of the fact that a lot of these people are new faces and they're tourists, are passing through. Where are you from? And nice, a bit of banter. With the microphone, just the fact of having microphone in church. I don't know why we have microphones in churches. We don't. It's designed so you don't need a microphone, isn't it?
Hey, you hear about John Chrysostom? They say you could hear him all the way in the back. It just it echoed off. You just spoke louder, and you get rid of the. They didn't have carpet, which takes away the sound, and they knew how to preach, and they knew how to get their voices out, and the churches were built for it. And modern churches aren't built for that anymore, especially with the carpet and things like that. I remember that Vegas. I went to Vegas 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and everyone laughed at me for going to mass. I'd still go to mass back in my day when I was just punching my time card, but I actually it was a Muslim that I'll never forget it. It was in a van, and the Muslim took me out there, and we were talking. He started trying to evangelize me, and I was just trying my best at the time. I didn't know much, but I knew I was back in my mind. I'm going, I don't think I'm going to ask for a cab back. I don't think I was trying to run me into the building afterwards. I just walked back, and by the time I got back to the hotel, I was drenching sweat. But yeah, you're right. There was a lot of microphones, there was a lot of tourists, and back then I didn't know better.
It's a crazy world we're living in. So remind me again where you settled down now? Where are you geographically?
Now in North Carolina, just outside Charlotte. So
okay.
Back in the South.
I always ask people that are in the Carolinas, North and South, if it's your lieutenant governor, that big black guy that's very Christian. Is he the guy?
Robinson. Yeah, he'll probably be governor next. One of the cool things that's happened last week is one of the state Dems from the House of Representatives went to the GOP, so now they have a supermajority and just killed Cooper's veto power. Now Cooper at last time he could just no. He did. I think the word was he vetoed more bills in the last couple of years than every governor in the history of North Carolina put together. So this lady, I guess, got tired of it, switched over, just killed that. He can't do jack for the rest of his term. Thankfully, he's gone after that. And Robinson, he'll probably come in. He'll probably be governor afterwards. I would be shocked if he doesn't win. Very charismatic personality, very just cool dude. I haven't met him. I don't think he's a fan of Catholics, but conversion opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I discovered him, during the whole past 3 years, what we went through, because he had some pretty viral videos where he's talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was actually talking about the trans thing. He said 2 + 2 does not equal trans or something like that.
Correct.
Just like, but his charisma, his energy, and it's like I thought he was a preacher, and then I realized he's some sort of politician of some sort. And
yeah, somehow he got. I mean, for the last vote, everything went red except for Cooper. And the scenarios here, we were going. There was no chance that you could run out a dead weasel, and he should have beat Cooper. I mean, anybody. It's almost like the whole Seinfeld episode joke when he says about the involuntary luge. He's like, you just put somebody out of the stands, throw him in the luge, world record. Didn't even want to do it. That should have happened with the governor. You could have just grabbed somebody out of the street, have a trailer park. You're going to run against Cooper, and he should have won. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those. By that time, like it's all screwed. I mean, we had. I did look it up. Soros and his son, they gave money, the max, to Cooper during here. So it was outside influence as well. But it was red, blue. Cooper. Really? I don't know how we didn't have a revolt here. Everyone was ticked. But yeah, Robinson will probably win he'll probably be governor come 2 years or a year and a half now.
So, I don't talk too much about politics, but since we're talking about it, with what we went through the past 3 years, I keep waiting for the economic doom and gloom to kick in, and it's sort of slowly happening, but nothing like what I expected. Like I expected some kind of economic collapse like by now, but I guess it's going to take a few more years. Do you have any idea? Like, I don't know anything about economics or politics, but is it coming? And is there a big bust of the bubble economic collapse coming? Or
it's almost like which bubble you want to talk about. Yeah, housing one's the big. They're talking about 2008 looking like nothing compared to what's coming. There's a couple of YouTube channels I follow on that, and they've been pretty on top of things and showing the stats along with that. And I mean, we're still in a rental, and I'm waiting for the crash to come before we even consider looking at something to buy. Obviously, the inflation part coming in with the CBDCs, that's coming. Everyone, their brother knows about it. Stevie Wonder sees that thing coming, and I've been ringing up with it. And that's one of the things I keep asking some of the trad talkers out there going, all right, you want we get it. We want the trad mask back. All right, riddle me this, Batman. What's going to happen when they kill your driving of cars, which they just came out yesterday, the EPA, or 2 days ago, saying there are no more sales of ICE cars, all because of the worship Mother Earth. And let's see, Australia's banned that. I think 17 states have banned it. The EPA just said no more sales after 2026. They got kill switches coming on them 2025. The plans, I have the PDFs. They talk about, right now to 2030, zero. They don't want you driving. They don't want you flying. They don't want you doing any of this. I was like, oh yeah, when you get your social credit score in the CBDC, which is ultimate control, they say if they don't want you saw that the Canadian truckers, they canceled their pay. They couldn't get their bank account going. When that thing goes off, and what are you going to do? How are you going to try the mask when you can't pay for gas? When your car won't turn on because it has to be programmed to go where it wants, and they're going to say, no, you're not going that way. Or maybe you put a post on Twitter, we don't like you, your social credit score went down. You don't have they're doing that in China right now. How are you going to get somebody to go to a 45-minute away mass if you can't drive to it? And I have yet to have one of the guys in the professional Catholic spirit give me an answer outside of nothing. They call me a weirdo or you're a conspiracy. No. Yeah. The world shut down 2 years ago, but call me a conspiracy. Now here's their stuff. That's one of the things I do with Clown Plan is I make sure here's the links, here's the sites, here's what they are saying. Don't yell at me, yell at CNN. Here's their conspiracy website, CNN. Here's what they're doing. This is coming. They just killed 18,000 cows the other day. And you talk about all the chickens that have been executed the last couple of years, millions. It's the whole thing. They're playing God with the trannies. They're playing God with trannies. We are God. It's almost like a Tower of Babel in a sense, we got to change our DNA. We can change our genetics. We can change food. We can spray the air with chemicals and cause more rain to come out, cloud seeding. They admittedly saying that. We spray this other stuff. Watch when they spray. They know it because right before they spray, there's a front comes in afterwards. There's lines up to the sky. That's not clouds. And they say there's actually a report saying they want to dim the sun because global warming. Yeah, that's a good idea. We just do it. I mean, that comes down, and you got that fire that's going on in Indiana right now. The plastics place. You got people still sick from Ohio. They still get the ground's contaminated, the air is contaminated. It's just on the laundry list. And going, what are we doing? And we're fighting each other about just the simple things. We're yelling about that beautiful things that happen in Florence. And yeah, we're not made for this world. We're made to get heaven. So yeah, if something goes down, be not afraid, because who cares if they kill us? I said something about if a nuke lands on us. Well, great. If we just come out of confession, just receive the Eucharist, and a nuke comes on, well, okay. One, you're not going to feel it. Two, you're in a state of grace. So as long as you stay in a state of grace every day, which we should, St. Cyprian talks about that, about imagining like a dangling knife over your head, a scimitar, and it's coming out any minute, and you better be in a state of grace when that thing comes down. And we still think of the worldly instead of outer worldly. The heaven is our goal. The Pasch of this year, going up. We're the Passover from this world to the next. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a crash coming. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get uglier, worse and worse. Then you come 2029 when the 100th anniversary of Fatima, the request comes down. I don't expect that to be a peachy year at all. Maybe I remember a priest and I talked about that, and I said maybe it's got to get so bad that when a miracle hits, it's going to be, the haters are going to say, yeah, that was heavenly. But it's got to get worse. We're only in 2023. You see what's going on. Don't read the tea leaves. But if you read the tea leaves, you see it's meteorology. You see what's coming in. You see storm clouds on the horizon going, it's going to rain. Or that joke, it's going to rain. It's going to get bad. They're going after everything. And what we think, well, we'll just vote harder. We'll vote Trump in. It's DeSantis. I mean, I'm not pushing for. I'm a whole secessionist guy. We've got to break away, as Don Livingston and the Abbeville Institute, who's Eastern Orthodox, by the way. The rest of the group's Catholic. He's married to a Catholic, and he goes, we got to break away, and then we got to convert. We got to convert the states. You do that, and get somebody in the governorship and the state houses that are like-minded, that can fight against this thing. Then you have a chance to beat this. If your idea is vote Trump 2024 and think he's going to fix something that's going on in your neck of the woods about training, reading, you got to pass the hookah pipe, because I need a hit off that. I go on forever on this.
Every generation, they call it the generation gap, because every generation thinks, oh my God, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and it's not like the good old days and this sort of thing. But it's my first and only life, so I can't really say what other people did before me. But it seems like, I mean, it does, not to dwell on the negative, but it does seem pretty crazy. Like, it seems like the craziest time ever. But I talked to a historian recently on my show, and he said, well, it's always like that. It's always crazy, and there are always new ideas, and Satan has tricks that he unfurls, and it's always drama, and the church in crisis, and blah, 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 blah. It's always the same thing. So he's a historian, so he has a more moderate view, and he's not so upset by everything. But from your perspective, it sounds like you see this as the end is near kind of thing. But the end is near, right? I mean, we have to live.
Our judgment day could be in the next 5 minutes. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you take away we're on tech. We're using tech to talk to each other from hours away. If lights, air conditioning, how many people use their cell phones to pay stuff? But they trained you to do that. You use a card. Most people use cards and not straight cash. So we've put ourselves in a situation that if everything went kaplunk, if this was 200 years ago, people would not care. They're like, what? So it's normal. So what they're trying to do is basically, it seems like they're trying to take everything back to a century, 2 centuries ago, all for the planet, except they got some weird things going on. If an EMP went off and took out all tech, what would you do? How could you live? because that would obviously, there was rumors about that going, that's going to kill the ideas, the 2030 project, the World Economic Forum idea. That's killed that. They don't want that to happen because they need the technocracy. But imagine if you cut yourself off and start learning how to live not off the grid. It's hard to do that, but grow your own food, self-sustaining, being able to barter with your neighbors, know who your neighbors are. If we had a tight community like John Signora writes about in Restoration of Catholic Culture, where the church was in the middle and people lived around, and you had these Catholic businesses interacting with each other. If we had that, I wouldn't care. Because all right, bring it worse. I mean, these little communities, like there's a couple I know off the top of my head that would be totally fine because they could still walk to the parish, still be able to grow. They got cows in the back, chickens like that. They don't, I mean, I got one guy, he doesn't even use electricity really. He just opens up the window, they work outside, just like the old days. You're outside, it's a little bit cooler. Well, that's what people did. They sat on their porches. That the whole idea of mint juleps and sweet tea and lemonade is people went outside. And now the houses are, what's his face? Guy that wrote "Bye Bye Miss American Empire." He talks about that. I think he's a New Yorker, and I want to say he's kind of a lefty, but he writes about that how the housing, just the housing itself, where it used to be porch, and you had the wraparound porches, and people would sit outside looking at their neighbor. Now it's moved to the back where you're solitude. You forget about your neighbor. It's about you. Your porch now is just basically you walk in with a door, and nobody knows their neighbor anymore. It's all secluded. And it's just, if we just reverse all that stuff, I mean, if all that went down, as long as you were prepared, forget about it. But we're not all ready for that. I mean, there's no way to be prepared for what's going on because we got to reprogram the way we live. I mean, just going to mass. How many people ride their bike to a parish, walk to a parish? You read Ganger, like on Christmas Eve, they talk about midnight mass. He brings up this family, and you think about the little one that's first time walking the midnight mass. And they're walking through the snow, and they put this big gigantic log on in the house so that when they come back, the house will be warm. You don't do that, man. You leave the heater on, you drive 15, 20 minutes to mass. You think you just push a button, everything comes on, and you got your phone. You don't even have to think about where you're going anymore. It's going to be a hard when that thing comes down. I mean, just how you buy. I mean, no one thinks about coffee or use coffee for bartering, little things like that. I mean, it's not great stuff that the end time stuff, but it's just going to be acting like that because we're not used to living that way. And when they say you can't travel, how many people like to travel? They're going to cut that. There's literally the PDF, one flight per person for every 3 or 4 years, and one that back and forth. Now, if you're somebody that likes to travel, or you got people on or your car. They're trying to get rid of oil. They're trying to get rid of gas. They want you in an EV car that doesn't work. How are you going to drive that to go from here to your state or travel to, not going to go to Montreal from here because the car is going to be dead in, 40 minutes and I got to recharge it for 2 hours. Or food, just the food problems. All right, you got food problems. What are you going to do? Start growing your own food. Then you eliminate the GMO stuff. You eliminate the pesticides they put in it, the poisons. I mean, we poison ourselves with the bad water that they filter all the fluoride in there. They got the foods that they just make up anymore. And then these, chicken. Everyone complains about the hormones in chickens. All right, well, we complain, but we don't really do any solutions to things like that. So, I don't know, it's more of a, it's going to look bad because we're not ready for it. And I don't think anybody, I just put myself included. I'm in a rental. It kills me. I can't do anything in the backyard because the guy that the owner has a manicured backyard. And it looks beautiful. It's worthless, but it's beautiful. I would like to have, plant, grow some potatoes, grow some stuff. Have some chickens.
You could do the sort of like a back fleur, they call it, like just an above ground cement box,
raised
soil and raised beds, whatever they call it. But the question of ecology, we all like to breathe fresh, clean air, and we don't want pollution in our water. We don't want to get sick and all these sorts of things. That's common sense. Everyone is an ecologist in that common sense way. But is there a think tank that's running the world that really, really, truly believes that we can go back to hunter-gatherer, shepherd lifestyle, that we're like, is that what is being planned? Like we're going to go back to the sort of Aboriginal way? Are we going to do that? Farming and local farming and these sorts of things, surf culture. Are we going to do that, or are we just pretending that we're going to get rid of all this plastic and technology? Because plastic's everywhere. I work in construction. You can't build a building without plastic. You can't build a building.
Rules for thee, not for me.
Is that what it is? Is it a hypocritical lie?
Yeah.
It's just a lie, or do they want to transition us all back to tech-free living?
It's power. It's a power control. It's a power grab. They're buying all the properties, like every time they come up with a rental thing, the BlackRock comes in. Everyone knows about BlackRock, right? That's what France, they're burning out BlackRock right now. They're saying, oh no, it's because they raised 2 years on retirement. Yeah, that's why they're burning out 2 years. They know what's going on out there. They're buying up all this stuff for control. These guys don't believe it. John Kerry got called out on that the other day with flying. He's because he's preaching don't fly, and he's on his own private jet going flying all over. He goes, well, I got to do this because I'm an important person, because I fought in Vietnam. And it's a total hypocritical power grab. It's kind of like if Hunger Games came to life. The capital is going to be fine. The elite is going to be fine. You serfs are going to have to do X, Y, Z, and if you don't like it, the peacekeeper is going to keep you down from doing anything. Now, it might not be like that literally level about, section, which they do have sections, but I mean, you're not going to be able to do. It's just like the Final Four happened and baseball's going on right now. You think you're going to go watch a baseball game? You're going to watch it. You're going to go. These college teams are going to travel outside, not even just going to mass or anything. If you're a sports fan, that affects traveling. If you can't fly to go to a game, and they literally want, like, you're England, they want to take out all the airports and just stop. And they say the line will be gone. You started seeing that with a little bit of this, a little bit of that, slowly getting out of that and slowly canceling flights and pilots and things like that. Your team is not going to be flying anywhere. And in the USS of A, that's when I think it's going to start hitting, when sports gets affected. It was like the one, what's his face, that dropped down. They made sure that guy did not die, because if he died on there, what would have broken loose on there. That's the religion. Sports is the religion. If you get that, and then because that's when all the other stuff, when all that went down, going, what about you guys can't go to a football game in the South? That's a religion. The college football stadium. 100,000 people go in there. They tailgate. They get to mass early. They go to mass. They leave mass late. They talk about it afterwards. They pray, do their prayers during. They do their Gregorian chants during their mass game. You take that away from Billy Bob, he ain't gonna like that. But yeah, if you can beat that, you just create your own currency. That's not hard to do. I mean, the South did it. The Confederate currency. William Ellison back in the day, he was a free black man. He was the richest man in the South. He created the Confederate currency. His sons were in the artillery. You're not going to get that at your state indoctrination camp history class. Real dude, look him up. They created a currency, so you can break away and create that based on gold. You can easily get out of it. Now the haters are going to go after you, sure, but you can. And you can't do anything about the air. You can't do a lot of the other stuff. I mean, like the dioxins going in with Ohio. I've heard people getting an Arctic having problems from it. But sure, I mean, you can do what you can. It seems like we just don't want it. It's going to be Trump's our savior. There's going to be 4 more years. I'm just waiting for 2029 to get here and go. Do you kind of have that little shirt on, say "I told you so"?
Do you think? Do you think they're going to get people so that they forgot what a family is, so like babies are grown in the lab and you have your pornography for sexual gratification, and then everyone's just happy with their television screen? Is that possible? Or do people want,
they're doing that now,
but do people instinctively want to, like, does a young man want to physically meet a young beautiful woman and get to know her? Like, is that always going to be a drive that we have?
You would think. I would hope so. I mean, they're doing that right now in China and Japan. They have the fembots, and people are doing that. They make real life ones that they can have, so they can have their robot partner. And
it's a physical robot that they have sex with.
Yeah. And they got the little, what do you call it, incubator centers. They're growing the people. They're growing meat. They're growing all this other stuff. It's almost like what's his face with that Sylvester Stallone movie, Wesley Snipes, and when they put on the VR, And it's because the lady, what's her face? I can't remember the actress. She goes, "Let's have sex." Just kind of, flippantly. And he's like, "Okay, yeah, all right, can't wait." And she goes, "They put on this VR thing." And that's how because they don't like bodily fluids. What have we gone through the last couple of years? Oh, bodily fluids are bad. Eh, so I mean, there's people that buy into this. It's just it's Romans 1. We're living Romans 1 right there. When it's in the sense of it, he goes, their minds become so warped that they're just stupid now. We're just falling for anything. We've rejected God and we're just accepting all this other stuff. I mean, that scene with the trannies behind at the DC press announce. I told my wife, I thought that was a Saturday Night Live skit. That's is this real? There's no way that's real. No, that was real. Or with the lady, guys pretending to be girls and winning these, women's sports. Like, coach, you want to say something? I mean, we joke. We used to joke about that. Now we had girls play with us. They could play. I remember this one girl played ball with us, basketball. She was a point. I'd pick her in a heartbeat as a point guard. She was great, ball handler, passer, all that fundamental skills. But you put a guy in the go down, the girls come up. That's different because they are good. They're special that way. I mean, there's that story about the girl pitcher at the Chattanooga Lookouts that struck out Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig during the spring training. Yeah, and yes, it was for show. Yes, it was for gate because that was back when the trains would come up from Florida. The trains would bring you back up. They stopped along the way at minor league stadiums to play. So like Duncan Park and Spartanburg and things like that. And so this guy got this girl together and they made the thing with the Yankees say, "Hey, we're going to have this girl play." Now, Gehrig was all cool with it. Ruth hated the idea. And you still see the photo. Gehrig's got his, smiling with his arm around, perfect gentleman like he was. And Ruth just looks ticked. But I mean, that was the thing. I mean, but you didn't. Ruth wasn't going to go down to the JV softball team and say, I'm a 13-year-old girl now. Let's play and just crush it, and maybe kill little Susie who's pitching from 30 feet away. No, someone would have popped him in the head. But today we just, oh yeah, that's fine.
We let it slide. Great. We let it slide. Well, there's a school in Toronto. You probably don't get a lot of Canadian news, but they had some tranny thing. I don't know why, I guess just pushing the agenda or whatever in this school. And a lot of the kids, I guess you'd call them conservative kids or just normal kids, whatever, kids with common sense parents, they were out protesting and some of them had Bibles. I know the one kid was doing the sign of the cross backwards he's an Orthodox guy. And they were talking to Rebel News. I don't know if you know Rebel News, but they're a conservative outfit up here in Canada. And I think they do a lot of shock jocking. I think they like to just stir things up. I don't know if they're actually trying to make a change or positive change, or if they just like doing the shocking news. But anyway, it's fun to watch. But a lot of these young kids, they're not buying the BS. And my wife had tears in her eyes because she thought that everyone's a moron now. Yeah. Everyone's a moron, especially the young people. But she had tears in her eyes because these kids were bright and they saw through the BS. And they were articulate and they were, Christian, and not all of them were Christian, but, there is hope, right? There is hope for humanity. That's why I was talking to you about the family and this natural God-given complementarity of man and woman, how I'm pretty sure that there's always going to be a few guys who want to get with a real woman in real life. Like, it's a pretty primal instinct we have, right?
Yeah, we just have to not just outbreed them, but I mean, they have to steal ours away. They're all for killing their own kids. They want them. They don't want them to reproduce. They want to kill them. And then one lady, she's been solid during the Rona thing. She's all upset about Florida passing the six-week ban. So what's your alternative? You want to kill them? Just is murdering the baby okay? Is that what you're pushing for? Yes or no? And so their side wants to kill and steal. They have to steal from our side. So it's all on us to basically, one, keep our base strong, strengthen it, keep it going, and two, bring more people into that base because they will contracept themselves literally out of existence. And I mean, you're seeing that now with all over the place. And Europe, I mean, formerly Catholic Europe, they're just That the reproductive rate out there is way below the level needed. The only reason why the USA is even close to it is because of the Hispanic population. Yeah, which goes back to Catholicism. Goes back to that. And if we just and they are those guys are starving. I remember hearing one story about it was in L.A. and there was a Hispanic preacher was up there. And he takes Our Lady of Guadalupe and tears it down the middle. And the story goes he got out by the skin of his teeth before they killed him because there's still it's still in there, but they don't have anybody to feed him. I remember back in Denver, the Hispanics were protesting at the chancery because they had they had no Bible study, no nothing, and there was only one project down in Denver that was profitable. It's the Bible study group, but they had nobody to teach Spanish, nothing for them, and they were begging for it. And I remember seeing a video from Vice, I think it was. It was about this about the Muslims tearing our boys in Houston away, focusing on the Catholic Hispanics in Houston and tearing them away to bring in the Islam. And a priest friend of mine in the area said, "Yeah, there's a lot of mosque along the northern Mexican border." And that got me into doing the Spanish channel, the Spanish website, and getting more content for them. And I got this guy here. I'm waiting for the website to get fixed. I'm updating the website right now, get it looking like a 2-year-old didn't put it together. When this guy's a 2-year-old, I got somebody that actually knows what he's doing it. And we're looking at trying to get a Spanish conference going with traditional minded guys coming in to speak to them and really hit hard at the community here because they're starving as well. It's almost like, yes, know what people are probably going like, how's this guy not killed himself yet? Because I'm looking at, I could black pill a lot of people with what I told my wife like. I read it and I get the books, I look at the project, I watch their videos, I see what's going on. So as the line goes, you don't have to, and then tell you what it is in a joyful way. And but yeah, if you're Catholic, you're gonna have joy. Three cheers for joy, is the bishop from Saint Theophane Bernard's time. When all his priests were getting killed, he has that motto: 3 cheers for joy. So yeah, it's gonna suck. Embrace the suck. 3 cheers for joy, anyways. You're Catholic. Smile. Easter's here. There should be it's like a mortal sin to be frown, be upset right now. You should be joyful the entire time. That's one cool thing about the Byzantine right is when they come out before the sermon, Christ is risen. Indeed, he is risen. I mean, you don't get that in the land right. You don't hear it. I mean, that's not smacking on the land right. I'm a land right guy myself, but that joy, that excitement, we should have that. And yeah, it's gonna suck. Okay, bring it. I just want to fight as long as you can fight and not be lazy about it. My personal opinion, if you're not lazy about it, so you can look at your kids and say, "I did something," or because I think of those guys that just tell me like, "Yeah, forget about it." Nothing you can do. As I'm just then give your kid the finger. Just tell them you don't care. Because I mean, it's one of those. I look at those guys. I want to be able to look at them and say, "I tried." Even if I might fail, I try. I'm gonna do everything I can to fight.
Amazing. Well, I mean, there's that quote by the little flower, I think it was, who said that we should always be striving to climb the stairway to heaven or the ladder or whatever, but never presume that we've made even that first step. I forget how she said it, but it was something like that.
That's good enough. That's solid.
Something like that, So we want to strive. Like that's what God looks at, is our striving. And I'm not
even
yeah.
Well, even our Lord says, strive to enter the gate. And the Greek for that is not just, as one priest said, some mamby-pamby, walk over somebody. It's grueling, knuckles in. Yes, agonizing. Yeah. And we just lose the English. We just lose a lot of that. And we get that mindset on that. It goes back to that whole thing about the past. Man, just think about that. Peter writes about it in today's epistle about the people. How many people know that people that weren't on the ark got saved?
Oh, really?
It was. Oh, yeah. Peter writes about it in the epistle for today. Okay. That our Lord went down into limbo, and the connection is the penitence of Noah. So when the flood came, that they were laughing and mocking Noah, and when the waters came, they weren't saved.
Okay.
Life-wise, but they repented.
Okay.
And went to limbo.
Okay. Okay.
So it wasn't like a whole, 100% losing.
Okay.
Yeah, he killed everyone on there. You were saved if you were on the boat, yes. Okay. But penance, repentance.
Okay.
Some I don't know how many were in limbo. I'll see if I can get the actual quote. It's right. I got the thing right here. because even Garanger writes that in his commentary on that. Being put to death indeed in flesh, but live in the spirit, in which common he preached to those spirits that were in prison, which had been sometime incredulous, when they waited for the patience of God in the days of Noah, when the ark was a building, wherein a few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by fire, or by water. And his commentary goes, he begins by telling how the soul of our Redeemer descended into limbo, and how among the prisoners detained there were some of those who had perished in the deluge, yet had found salvation in its waters. They were at first incredulous and despised the threats made known to them by Noah. But when the flood came and swept them away, they repented of their sin and asked and obtained pardon.
Beautiful.
Give me that sermon.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. That's what I like to hear. That's why I like Vatican II. It talks about that, that everything tends toward bringing everyone to salvation. Obviously, we have free will, so we can say no. We can say no, obviously, but everything is designed, optimized for the salvation of everyone, and God has a plan for even the sickest pervert that's walking around today, preaching Satan's lies, right?
Yeah, I mean, Augustine was no man. You can't.
He was no saint. Huh? Augustine was no saint, or was he?
You can't make a real movie on his life and have that rated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you see those guys, how bad some of those guys lived, and what was it? Saint Cyprian was one of the Cyprians, was a satanic priest. You had Bartolo Longo, who was a Satanist. Yeah, there's hope for.
Do you know the story? You know the story of the I think it might have been a priest who was frequenting the whorehouses, and he died a martyr's death in the whorehouse. Do you remember that story? Do you remember that? Is it true or false? I don't know.
There's one saint, I can't remember his name, but he went. I have it on the website. She went to basically become a whore, and he would follow and pretended that he was looking. It was her uncle or something like that, and he basically pretended to be a potential client. And when she figured out who it was, they didn't do it. They didn't do anything, but he was trying to fish her back, and ended up converting her. I forget her name right now. Like I said, it's on the website. I thought that it was just a beautiful story, and I'm going, wow, that is amazing. But yeah, there's probably stories of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah,
7 demons, perfectly possessed, and probably a creature of the night as well. I mean, yeah, we've got so many. There's nobody that you can't say that there's no something. Bernard Nathanson killed his own grandkids. He's not a saint, but he died in died in
the abortionist.
Church. Yeah, he converted.
Amazing.
Became Catholic, repented, and he started Operation Rescue to stop. His goal was to stop what he created.
Amazing. Wow.
So yeah, there's all kinds of just incredible stories out there. Again, it gives you hope and joy.
Do you know the Saint Mary of Egypt? She had some lust issues. What was just briefly? What was the story with that? Briefly.
Yeah, her feast day was last week. She was basically a harlot in a sense. Went to Jerusalem, wanted to see the true cross, and some supernatural thing kept her from going in. She tried 3 times, and then finally vowed to. Maybe it was Our Lady of Perpetual Help. I don't know the icon that was there, but it was an icon of Our Lady at the church there, and vowed that she would repent and go live in penance. And she didn't have the Eucharist again for another 40 years because she just left it all, went across, and lived in the desert for 40 years until the priest found her, gave her the blessed species, and came back, and she was dead because there's that next. She asked him to come back a year later, and found her dead on the ground, and a lion came out to dig a hole to bury her. And Garanger writes about that. Goes, imagine we complain about the penance we have to do now. That's back in the 1700s. He goes, what did she have to do? What did she do to do that? And we complained about 40 days. She did it for 40 years. Nobody knew where she was. She was just out there by herself. And it's just, they just talk about it amazing. She's almost like the patron of penance. Cool story. Yeah, Jim, we got the stories of stories. Yeah, her feast day was last week, the 9th or the 4th, depending on what calendar you want to look at. But
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely amazing. You're a source of encyclopedic knowledge of a lot of Catholic stuff. Next time I'm going to ask you to walk me through your wall with all the paintings, all the books. I see you've got Dominion by Father Chad Ripperger. I'm going to read that one. I've just got that one. I bought that one recently. Have
I
you
got a
read it?
signed copy.
Is it good?
I haven't read it. No, I haven't read it. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's good. I mean, most of the conferences that he's done, they're in the book. So I mean, like you said that about the encyclopedia. I've listened to every sermon probably about 6 to 10 times, and then I've read the liturgical year 15 volumes twice now into the channel. Uh, but yeah, I still got another 15 photos over there, 15 over there. And you can't see it, but that's Peter Martyr at the bottom of him. That's a saint that no one really knows about. There's one book in English on him, and I'm just floored. That guy was the man. The man, just a child praying for like a good birth and expected mothers. The author writes he had like 8 times the help of every saint put together in history of the church. Yeah, people fell away; they forgot about him, but he was just. And he says that maybe it was because the way he was martyred. He had a sliced in the head and another cut in his shoulder. So the author goes, he knew pain. So maybe that's the reason why. But yeah, he was the first Dominican martyr, and he was an exorcist, controlled the weather. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you got the Ladder of Divine Ascent. That one's from Ecuador, the Sacred Heart. That's Our Lady of Quito. That's the altarpiece from England, the Carthusian monastery in England, where you see the martyrs, Carthusian martyrs getting they're ripped out. That's Our Lady of Holy Protection.
Is that the Holy Face behind?
Yeah, I got a Holy Face one from one of the Redemptorist magazines. I thought it was a cool one, so I ripped that out and put it up. And
yeah.
These are 40 holy martyrs from Sebast. So if you get cold out there one day, walking outside, and you're like, man, it's cold. Those guys were made to step on a frozen pond for all night long and freeze to death. And then if they didn't die, they clubbed them to death and they burnt them alive, And yeah, the 40 soldiers of Sebast. That's a cool story. And Garcia Moreno above there, over here, that's his regula that's behind that. And yeah, no, it's I used to have sports photos all over my room when I was a kid. Now I got the Hall of Famers on our side. I got the North American Martyrs over there, and that's just looked over. Yeah, the Smith, John Fisher, Alphonse Rathburn, Cardinal Duval, Alphonsus, Matt Talbert, the Irish venerable Matt Talbert, Therese, Pierre, Joseph, Augustine, North America, Therese, or Teresa, Pier Giorgio, Frassati. I try to find photos that no one has. You can't see it up there, but there's a photo of it's somewhere in Italy of Our Lady handing or baby Jesus handing a marble to an angel who drops the marble, a bead, onto the Turks. I would love to get an HD version of that one.
Do you have local blesseds or venerables like in your area where you live now that aren't well known?
The guy that brought the religion to the state, he's not. I don't think he's anything besides maybe servant of God. I don't know anybody in the state. I don't know anybody in the southeast actually. Well, outside I mean the martyrs, but they're not canonized. But there's Florida has a ton. South Carolina's got a few. North Carolina had more because there was more missions. Georgia's got a couple. But they're all non-canonized martyrs.
Okay, they're all martyrs. They're all martyrs. Because
they're all martyrs.
We have a wonder worker miracle guy up here in Montreal. I don't know if you know about him. I may have asked you about him, Brother Andre.
Well, you got the St. Anne's Basilica up there.
Yeah.
And the guy there, I think he's a venerable at least. Was it Bossuet?
I don't know. I don't even know. I've never even been there. I should go.
Montreal's got a ton of. I mean, that's. Well, you heard, Quebec, that was supposed to be the Pius XII talked about moving the Vatican See to Quebec because at that time he said it was the most Catholic area in the world.
Wow. Can you imagine?
And he had all that problems going on in Rome. So he's like, let's move it all to Quebec.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we could have our own little Avignon up here.
Yeah. I think I did a post on Canadian basilicas long 6 or 7 years ago. It's on the website. I gotta look that up. But yeah, you guys got a lot of history. I wanted to come up there. I just don't know if I could get back in. We don't have the jam.
Yeah, yeah. Have you met any online Catholic guys like that you like? I know there's a trad guy. He's pretty cool. I invited him on, but he didn't respond to me. He's got a beard. He's a Canadian guy.
I think I know you talking. I forget his name right off the bat.
But hey, you don't interact with the Canadian guy so much?
I don't interact with a lot of people.
No?
I forget what is his name. I just forgot his name. Kennedy.
Yeah. Kennedy Hall. Yeah.
I really don't interact with him. When I sit down here to start doing it, I sit down here and I start busting out things.
Yeah.
Either reading it, like right now, reading these in, editing it. Say like right now, I mean, those are 37, 40-minute long readings. And then on top of that, to edit that out afterwards and then upload it and record it and upload it, not including the sermons of the week, doing all those. I mean, I get them. I try not to do anything on Sunday. So Monday, I'm downloading them, formatting them into audio. And then I have to, for the program I use, I have to record it, upload it, and then so that the volume and audio is in sync, I have recorded and then use that recording to put the photos where I need to. And I've gotten good at it. Now I can get maybe 3 or 4 done in a week. But I mean, just yesterday, I uploaded 17 videos in one day, but that's not including the other days. So probably about 30 or 40 videos a week I'm uploading. So, and on top of that, reading and things like that, I really don't, unless somebody texts me, and because I'm playing with the kids, playing with the family, eating, working out, something like that. I just do my thing.
You don't get a lot of invitations to come and chat. Like I invited you and you said yes twice so far. Do you get a lot of people want to come on their podcast? No?
No, I get you and another guy. He asked me just yesterday to come on, and I'm fine. I'm totally fine with that. But none of the big dogs ever asked me to come on, man.
You're kidding.
That doesn't bother me.
Okay. But I think Enoch has a thing where he says getting to know you or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you done that with him?
I was his first one.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I'll have to go and listen to that. Did he surprise you like with some of the questions that he brought out of you, or was it all natural?
Not really. I mean, I told him I was going to be vanilla with a lot of stuff because my past is not going to get on video.
Okay.
But there's mostly. I mean, there's been a few, maybe 7, 8. And I have no problem telling someone, yeah, sure, yeah, no problem. I'll talk, even if I don't have a clue who they are. Yeah, sure, let's talk. But yeah, I never had any of the big dogs reach out. Again, not a big deal.
You could reach out to them to have them on your show, maybe.
It just depends. I get a lot of people ask me, like, there's been ideas people would pitch to me, and I go, I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's not something that's, if I'm going to talk about it, it's like sales. If I'm going to sell it, I want to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
If you're pitching me an idea and I just like, I don't believe in it, or a book, like Sophia and Tam will ask me, hey, you want to do this book? No. And it could bring in a lot of views. Don't care. Like one book was, Who's the Future Pope? Like, that's something I really don't care. Talk about a waste of time.
I was thinking, when you're editing sermons, do you ever go like, this sermon's not really doing it for me, I'm not going to put this on? Do you do that?
I did that once 6, 7 years ago, and it was on it was a 5-6 minute one, and the gist of it was Saint Teresa was in a carriage with other sisters, and they were going around a mountain, and they had some kind of like a wheel break or something like that, and they prayed to Saint Joseph, and he came and saved the day, and a couple apparitions of Saint Joseph with her and things like that. And it was cool, but back in my mind, I'm going, I'm just not feeling this. Just forget about it. I'll just upload anyway. It was a hit. Everyone was like, the comments coming in, and from then on, I go, stop thinking, just do. Now, if it's something like, if Father says something like, write a letter to Rome and send emails to here, I go, that ain't happening.
Right.
Yeah. So I've had a couple that they go after the church hierarchy a little bit. I'm going, I'm not putting that up. I'll forget about that. So which is funny if you look at the others like Cancel Priest, I think website, or I can't remember with the YouTube channel. They'll put the ones that I won't put up, and those are the sexy ones. They get hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah.
Really? that same priest will talk about prayer the next week. They won't put it up, and I get about maybe 800, 2,000 views. But it just shows we even trash. They want their ears tickled. They like that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We don't want the stuff that's really going to help. No one cares much about. I'd say no one cares, but it's not as sexy. It's not going to drive the
It's the
eyeballs.
narrow path. It's a narrow gate.
Yeah.
Have you had content with Father Blunt or Blount? He's an exorcist, I think. Do you know about
No,
him?
I haven't.
You haven't
No.
encountered him? Because he
No.
seems very interesting. Maybe I'll send you a link and you can see if you like him. But it's like I'm kind of attracted to his sermons, but I wonder if he's going too far or whatever. I'm just not too sure. But like I said, I don't really look at a lot of Catholic content online because I just find a lot of it is toxic. I love your channel. That's what really helped me a lot when I first converted. But now I'm sort of just taking a little break from all the Catholic content generally.
Yeah, I mean, I even that these are brought up extras. I'm going, nah, if I got one already, I'm going,
Yeah.
I don't need more. As in times I don't even want to listen to more. I mean, I know that like we know what the diabolic does. We know the devil.
Yeah.
What one priest that he's like a ringer in a sense. I found him. I call it the fruits of TC, traditional custodes, because when that went down, we lost the tritium here. And so I went to the Byzantine rite for that weekend because Father goes up to me and goes, "What are you going to do?" And I was, I don't know, but I'm not going Bugnini. I'm not going to Society for Bugnini. And he goes, "Come to mine. It's pre-4th century." I go, we'll give it a shot. And just find out we've gone there for almost a year. Not every Sunday, but probably about 40 out of 52 weeks. And that led me to finding more Byzantine priests and sermons like that, which led to other cool stuff and ideas and like merging the two wings. And Father Abernathy's stuff, if you see on there with the Ladder of Divine Ascent, which that's the icon right there is the Ladder of Divine Ascent. I read that a decade ago and it just blew me away. And he's doing like a Divina and Lectio Divinae style on it, which is incredible. And he's also doing that the Evangelios, and he's doing that with St. Isaac the Syrian. And those are our saints. It might be in the EO's mind, Eastern Orthodox, but that was pre-schism guys. They're Catholic saints. Philip Neri, his two favorite books were the Conferences of John Cassian, which Father did a thing on the conferences, and the Ladder of Divine Ascent. I mean, he called Rome his desert. And you list the desert. Reading those guys, you talk about some cool stuff. I was just reading one of the Philokalia yesterday, and it mentioned something about waking up. No, it's in the Way of the Pilgrim. And he talks about when you wake up, you see the sun, and you're thankful for the God that just created the sun, and you go then you eat whatever you eat. You're thankful for the food you just ate and the sweetness and the thought that of him making that for just you for that time. And because he's talking about praying always. And so if you start thinking about your life like that, you're praying always and being thankful. And then joy comes in big time. And just the thoughts and the ways that those are, I think those would just really get us the on fire type deal thing. We don't need another program. We don't need programs. We need people in love so much that as one, there was an Abby, it was Abby Anthony, I think it was? Abby Anthony someone comes up to him and says something about it feels like you might be praying too much or something like this. And he's worried about other people were thinking, and he goes, forget about that. Just be all in, he like spreads his hands and be on, one day you be all on fire and flames come out of his hands. Something like that. You could be all flame. And it's like, yeah, do that. Be radically on that and forget about what these guys saying. Yeah, all right, Rome is having a rough couple of years. Yeah, that's happened before. I remember somebody coming up to me upset about the Pope. I go, you ever heard of the Cadaver Synod? And they're like, no, what's that? I told them about that. When they dug up the old Pope, Stephen digs up Formosus, puts him on trial, cuts his hands off, throws him in the Tiber. Long story short. And she's just like mouth drop. Yeah. Imagine 24 hours news coverage on that. Imagine the Twitter on that. Having photos, CNN, watching that, filming that. Or John the 12th, the pornocracy that was at the Vatican. We've had it bad. We just didn't have the internet. And let's calm it down, pump the brakes, love more, read the saints, read more saints and pray more than reading the blogs. And I think we
Yeah.
changed the world.
Fawaz said that you had a funny quote where you said you should have more calluses on your knees and fewer calluses on your fingertips from all the tweets. From all the tweets. So you know Hugh Owen's Byzantine Rite, right? Hugh Owen.
Yeah. He's got a book, From the East, or Salvation from the East, or something like that.
Yeah. Have that. Have you? So you met him in real life?
Oh yeah. He's a gentle, kind,
holy man.
Father calls him a walking saint. The man. I don't know. I don't think there's anybody can get that man mad. That guy. He's fantastic. And we had a disagreement on something, and I wrote him back. So I knew, of all people, I could write you back and know it, that you would not be upset about that, or take it the wrong way. Or that. The guy's gentle, awesome.
Gentle, very meek, humble.
Very. But he's had everything gotten on him. He gets heat from all these guys, and he doesn't let it affect him. He's almost how what you see about the Desert Fathers, about saying, the Hesiodic approach of John Chrysostom. It was a big thing on that, the inner peace, and not the Buddhist monk thing, but the inner peace. You're not going to lose it on somebody else. You're in control of your passions, in a sense. He seems that way. I mean, if he's not, he does a good job of hiding it.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. So from what you know of Father Chad Ripperger, he's a pretty stand-up guy, and he's pretty solid.
He owes me $50 for him. No, just kidding. He's good. He's got you all fooled. Just
does he watch your channel, Sensus Fidelium, and all that?
I have no idea. He's probably too busy to watch. He knows that we know it's up there. I mean, I remember the first time, not talking to him, but there was a group that was out of Paris trying to shut down the channel, and my bud Ryan Grant, I kind of told him about what was going on. He goes, "You want me to get Father to contact or do something?" And he loves what you're doing. I go, "Really?" Like first time we met, he talked about that. He goes, "Man, how do you do all that?" I don't know. People, I remember before I got a desktop, I was using just a laptop, and we were driving from Denver to here, and a friend of mine said, "So, what do you use to put the channel?" I go, "You see that bag? That's the website right there." He goes, "You're kidding." I go, "Yeah, I use Microsoft Windows Maker, Movie Maker. It's free. It's a free thing." You put the new stuff, and when I get a new computer, I have to download and find that file, because I do not know how to work the updated versions. So I'm using like a 2014 model of Microsoft Windows Maker, whatever it is.
This is how we know it's a divine. It's a divine thing.
A buddy of mine bought me, the Adobe thing. I use it like once every blue,
or something like that. Premiere.
Yeah, the Adobe
Fancy.
Creator thing. You put a gun out of my head and tell me to make a video on that, just shoot me. I have no idea how to do it.
Wow, unbelievable. It is miraculous that you somehow have found the time consistently to do it and put together all that great content, and it's changing people's lives for sure. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And then on top of that, your growing family. Any plans for more children? You said you have 3 now.
We're a providentialist, as one priest called it. Whatever God has is, uniformity, God's will, as Alphonsus says. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Blessed be God.
Yeah.
Joe.
Amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time. You gave me a lot of time here today. I've abused your generosity, but it's always great talking with you, seeing your smiling face full of joy and the love of God. And so I really appreciate you, and we'll definitely keep in touch. And are you active on Twitter or what?
No, I got 2 sites. Sensus Fidelium one, which I got it back. It was nuked for about 5 months. So I'm trying to use that for just the videos and website links and things like that. And I got my own, and I try my darndest just to keep that as the news site. So I can, if I find a news clip, and I follow more secular than I do Catholics, I just retweet. So someone might see me like 30 retweets. It's all news links. And I'm trying to save that, so when I do Clown Plane, I can just go there and I can pull them all down and have them
It's a
some kind of
scrapbook. It's a
order.
scrapbook for you. It's like a scrapbook. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I use it for too. But yeah, I saw you on there, so I followed you, but I wasn't sure how active you were on there. But if I send you a message, I don't know if you didn't see my last message I sent you, a private message, but
Did you? I didn't know. I have to look.
I'll email you. I'll just continue to email you. It seems like a better way to keep in touch.
I check in the mornings about the notifications and things like that, and then I get right to it. And
Yeah.
somebody like and for some reason the like I told you I was late coming on. Oh shoot, yeah, finish the rosary, finishing our prayers. I get this alert 5-10 minutes to the podcast. I'm going, oh no, hurry up. Because I have the calendar up front, but it's some reason it did not populate today. And I'm going, okay, I guess I got nothing going on.
Satan didn't want you to talk to me. Do you do the luminous mysteries as part of your rosary or no?
Actually, I haven't. You did that back in a long day. I just haven't, there's nothing wrong with them. If you look at the history of the rosary, those exact mysteries were used back in the early days.
You're not in the habit. You're not in the habit of doing those.
No, I just haven't been in the habit. I mean, it's good. I still just stick with the 15. And
yeah,
I read Chris Ferrara's book on EWTN, talking about that, and I actually like that book. It's a good apologetic book, especially for the papacy. And he talks about was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? It goes through the alphabet order, and then it goes when you get to the second half of the week, it goes, what is it? The luminous on Thursday. So then you're back to the sorrowful, and then you're back to the joyful, then you're back to glorious. So it's all over the place.
Too complicated.
Do what?
Is it too complicated for you?
No. I just don't even. I haven't thought about it. It's no, some they want to do it. And it was JP2's private devotion, anyways. It wasn't supposed to be, mandated.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's just a private thing, and he brings that up in his book EWTN. Talk about how they took things that were just a private thing, like here's a recommendation. No, we're going to make it authoritative because that's
okay.
It was his thing. So there's a lot of people do their own things, and I just stick with my own. It's kind of like the whole thing of no devotion, and everyone has their own devotions. And I'm like, you better take up mine.
One last question, because well, first of all, just to acknowledge what you said there, I read Saint Louis de Montfort as one of my favorite saints, and he talked about you could do what you want, within reason with the rosary and make your own method, and he had 100 different methods that he would use. But I saw on the Twitter people bashing, a lot of radtrads and whatever, they're bashing the Divine Mercy and Saint Faustina. So
it's that time of the year.
I had a little twinge of like, is my devotion misguided? Like, is this satanic or whatever? Just like a little moment, it's like, but what do you say?
It drives me batty. There's nothing wrong with the Divine Mercy. I mean, they go, it was on the index. So we're a lot of other saintly books. And they said it was it was on because of bad translation. But it still doesn't please everyone. They're still going to get mad. Why? We have no joy. We just like fighting. We like finding things we don't like, and then we try to make authoritative statements afterwards. If they read, it's like one guy talks about how he brings up Garage. He'll say, he said never. This should never ever change. The feast of the coming Sunday. And wait, what about the other times when he reads in the other 5 volumes? He talks about charity, and if you don't have charity, he goes to town on love and charity for the last 6-7 weeks of the week, Sundays after Pentecost. I'm going, hey, y'all forget that part? You're not reading that part? You're just focusing on that one thing. I can find 6-7 different other ones where he says don't change this too, but that they changed that. I mean. The whole I did last week, everyone was upset. If you go to, it used to be that the Easter Vigil didn't count for something. Yeah, but that's because they did it at 3 in the afternoon and it went to midnight. And then they got up and it was back in the times of faith when you didn't drive and you lived in the area. And those guys went home and they went to bed and they got up at the local mass that was 5 minutes away in a walk. And they're singing psalms on the way in and praying just like the Byzantines. They get up, I think this was it, the Saturday. They start at 10 a.m. and they go to midnight. I didn't see any of those guys that were condemning everyone to the fifth realm of hell for going to the vigil. They weren't out there praying for 12 hours a day. No, they were on Twitter getting calluses on their fingers for 12 hours a day. And forget about it. It's when it just drives me. You can see it drives me a little bit. You like divine mercy? Do it.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. I know priests that use it for their penance for after confession. Beautiful. There used to be it was Our Lady of Sorrows Rosary was like 1,000 years of indulgence for doing it after sacrament of penance. And yeah, it's just we look at something to yell at. It's again that thing in Florence. Oh, that's so Novus Ordo. That thing was around for 1,000 years. They have no idea what they're just upset and mad, and it's bitterness, and it's going to eat away with them. And there's just a bunch of negative guys, and just don't listen to those guys.
Yeah.
And it's all about clicks, likes, and things like that. And they won't care about charity, and probably won't care about holiness. But maybe they do, and I'm off on that. But yeah, those are one of those guys just like slap them upside the head, and it's like, figure it out, man. Either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. Right now, you're part of the problem. Little old lady doing a divine chaplet, and you're going to call her, evil or something like. Get out of here.
I read Saint Faustina. I liked it, and I just do the 3 o'clock thing. It's like a quick little prayer, and that's the extent of my devotion. I've got like 5 or 6 devotions, and they don't take up too much of my time.
Yeah.
And
I will say, when I heard a guy singing the Divine Mercy Chaplet, that was cringe. don't do that little girly singing thing. Say it. That's fine. Do it. Family chant with it. Yeah. I heard him doing that, and my brother and I were just like, this was like a decade, 15 years ago. We're like, what is he doing?
So how's your brother doing? Is he deeply influenced by your Catholicism? Like,
He's a priest, so I hope he's deeply influenced. No, I don't know how much time he has to. I don't know if he watches a lot, but yeah, he's just busy being a priest down in Texas, and no, doing good, doing well.
Is he the brother that got you excited about politics when he was?
No, I got in politics before, and he saw what I was posting and went. For Lent, well, if he's posting state stuff, I'll do church stuff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he did the Saints of the Day for Lent, and that's when he's like, man, maybe I'll. And he shot me a text in October: ignorance of Scriptures, ignorance of Christ, and that's what the little foot up my butt to get me going was that. And, I saw the post that he was doing on Staples, and he brought me to a Staples conference a couple times, and one of those when I got mad, going, look at this. This guy's he's an immigrant. He knows more about it than I do. That got me a little. I'm like that. I like to be challenged in that way. A lot of guys don't like that. I had coaches that were, call you names or call you out and embarrass you in front. That was motivation. That's my kind of motivation. Today, you do that, you get guys going out in the corner. That's one thing about the trad movement. I keep repeating is most of them probably weren't in the military or were never played ball. Because if they played ball and they had a coach yelling, they'd be crying in the corner the way these guys act to other people online. And none of these guys played. If they had a coach, they didn't win because their coach was a pansy and they didn't do anything to them. So it's a mindset. It's not just something you just yell at somebody about. You got to be disciplined on it and be able to, have the heart to will it and work. All right, how do I win that person? Just like in a game, how do I beat that person? Or how do I beat you? How do you look in the mirror? How do I beat that guy? In sports, you're your own worst enemy too, because even in a team sport, if you stink, you're gonna bring the team down. So you gotta know your weakness, know your strength, and work on your weakness to get better. Bring the whole team up, win. So you got that mindset.
Were you ever a fan of UFC or MMA? Is that something that you allowed yourself to indulge in at all, or no?
Human cockfighting, no.
No,
I like boxing. I really never watched MMA. Seen the previews, seen highlights.
Yeah. A lot of Catholics in there.
Yeah, there are. It's just a new thing, I guess. I mean, there used to be boxing, used to be the main thing, and that's ever since Evander Holyfield and Tyson's gone, there's not too much. I don't think there's been a real big ticket. And there is a Steve Cunningham, the USS Cunningham. He's a heavyweight, middleweight champ. I've never seen him fight though. Butterbean, Remember Butterbean?
No.
But no, I've never watched MMA. I
No.
mean, Kevin James movie was the closest I watched.
Because it is the good ones. They're all about discipline, like self mastery, and that's the
Mhm.
that's where priest, prophet, and king, and that priest is the self mastery. The priest part is the self mastery part, and the martial arts, they do emphasize this self discipline and control of the passions, and love of your enemy, these sorts of things, and the sportsmanship, and you know uh, the worst thing that you can see in mixed martial arts, just like in any other sport, is when someone gets injured. No one wants that. Only the psychotic a-holes want to injure someone. No one wants
Yeah,
to see an injury except if you're psychotic. So it's not about injury, of course, but it's the same with boxing. Like, you don't want to see an injury in boxing, but you get beat up. It's normal, but there's I think it's good. I think it's good within reason, and if it's done with love and respect for yourself and for God and for your opponent,
yeah,
and whatever. And it certainly has become popular. But I've been watching it since the 90s. So
yeah, yeah.
it's
I know a couple. I know quite a few guys that love it. I just didn't get. Never gotten into it.
yeah. There's a reality show called The Ultimate Fighter where they get some sort of unknown people into a house and they do a competition, and it's pretty fascinating because a lot of the
I think a guy
guys,
from college, a guy from
yeah,
college, was an MMA fighter. Yeah, it was an epic fight at the college. It was my brother and I did not get into it, but we were the center. These guys wanted to go after us, and everyone loved us, so they were coming after us. And it was mutual friends, and this guy named Sean Dodaro, he comes out in the middle of the street, just starts beating up a car like the Hulk. And then a couple years ago, I saw he's an MMA fighter. I go, yeah, it makes sense.
what's his?
I remember his starts.
Was he a big name?
No, no, no,
Household
no. He
name?
was just a soccer player at the college. He's a little
Okay.
short midget dude, and now he's a MMA fighter. I
But
go, yeah,
he's a successful MMA fighter. Like, he's a
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
household
guess
name.
I haven't looked at it. Last time I saw it was on Facebook.
What's his name?
Sean Dodaro, Dodenro. I have to look it. I'll
Okay.
text you
You
the
can
name.
email me his name. I'll look him up and see who he fought.
Yeah, I don't know how big he is, but I know he does it.
Well, the thing with a lot of the rad trads today is they do emphasize masculinity, maleness, macho, or not machismo, but pretty close to machismo, like men's rights and how to be a man, how to be manly, and how to be a good father figure in the family, and these sorts of things. And they are things that are part of the Catholic faith, but I wonder if they're given too much emphasis, or if they're sort of missing the point in other areas, or if it's just something that's really drastically needed in our society that's so effeminate today.
I mean, yeah, there is, but then you go. I know there's a group that went on the Instagram and called some lady a whore or she looked like a whore because of what she had on and was in the pool or something. I go, yeah, that's not the way to go at it.
No,
So you can talk about being a man and living that way and do all you want, but if you're doing stuff like that, no respect for you on that.
no, no.
That's bush league. I mean,
Andrew
um,
Tate, that sort of stuff. Andrew Tate. You know,
I don't know who Andrew. I
you
don't
don't know
know.
who he is?
No.
He's one of these macho guys talking about how macho he is, and then he's just trashing women all the time,
Oh,
allegedly.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. That's not. That's there's. Where's the? It goes back to love. Where's the love? Where's the? There is no charity. It's when you come back with everything's a. If you're a hammer and everything's a nail,
Yeah,
yeah, it's not the way to go about it. It's being a man is not just. It's a little bit more.
muscles, more than muscles.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you look at Kobe. I mean, he was just a small dude, but yeah, we're not talking about even meatheads. These guys aren't. I don't think most of these guys are meatheads. Most of these guys just like sports and will call you out. Oh, sports is for pansies. They like name calling. It's almost like these guys like being in name calling in front of the camera, people knowing their names and things like that. But at the same time, yell at everyone for being effeminate and things like that. Wait, those the same guys that if you say something to them are quick to block, run, and cry and call you a name. So who's the real effeminate? It's like the guy is. There's that line of the so-called tolerant, the so-called tolerant, are the least intolerant lives. The so-called, the manly guys are the least manly. They're the most effeminate, are the ones calling everyone else effeminate. Um, there's a lot of that going on. It's just it's a sad thing, and gives us a bad name.
Absolutely. So what do you got coming up in the future to wrap things up here? I have to let you go here. What's something positive you got coming down the pipe that you're excited about in your Catholicism?
Oh, I was excited about everything. I mean, just excited, what kids are eating. They were eating crap last week. Now they're eating good stuff. We're excited about that. And, there's a hard fight. We were like determined. No, just just there's a lot of. I mean, with the website getting finished, may start reading a couple of projects I got in the works. A couple of conferences. I'm doing a conference, not me doing, but going up to Raleigh to give away stuff at the end of the month. So I'm looking forward to see how many people we see at that one, and I'll be there all week. I mean, not all week, all day, and just people get funny like, "You're there? Where about your people?" I am that people. I don't have people. I don't make enough. I don't make any really. I barely get enough to pay diapers, and taxes. Good. I might as well just write a check to Ukraine. And yeah, it's just exciting. I mean, it's not a lavish thing, but it's fun, and it's when I see those emails and comments about how much it's helped somebody or convert somebody, that makes it all worth. Like one comment like that, like we're in. Which one am I reading? Which novel am I reading next?
Yeah. Do you feel the prayers? Are you getting a lot of prayer? Are people praying for Steve Cunningham every day? Do you feel that?
I hope so. I have no idea. I hope so. I mean,
well, do you ask people to pray for you?
For everyone who is, I have no idea.
Well, you should ask them to, because you're like you've got some reach, right? Like you said, 250,000 subscribers now.
I'm terrible at asking people for help. People are like, ask for donate. I hate doing that. I ask
for prayers at least.
I know. I just don't. I just never asked. I mean, I know people are. They say that in the comments. So I mean, I appreciate it. But I just never reached out. So hey, please do this. I mean, I do it for other people, but I'm assuming people are doing it for me. Hopefully, it's been cool. But like I said, I mean, just the saints. I mean, we got plenty of these guys around too. Not saying don't do it. The Infant of Prague go to all the time. Peter, Mara go all the time. Anytime there's a storm, St. Pete, protect the family. Never had a problem ever since I was introduced to him. Seen storms go around, fixed up, hurricanes turn right. Cool. Just the cool stuff that we have, just cool. Philomena, the story on her about for doing a novena to her and getting a 6-pack of beer and enough to cover a bill one day. This is 12 years ago, and for her curing a girl back in Spartanburg with blood issues. I never got that relic back. I had to get another one. There's fun stuff like that. So I never think about that. But yeah, if you say a Hail Mary for me, I put that in my newsletter.
Okay.
The Pierre Giorgio one. Say a Hail Mary for me, and I'll be eternally grateful. That's his quote.
That's pretty cool. So I'm going to put a link in the description to what's your best link? Is it to the YouTube channel, or is it to do you have a Sensus Fidelium website that you want me to link to? What's the best link?
SensusFidelium.com, like Expedia.com.
Is it SensusFidelium.com?
.com. Yeah, it's got a little work done right now, but it's some features. It should be fixed up and ready, finished maintenance in a couple weeks, but I got a reader on there, so if you don't want to read the link, you can click the reader, and it will read it to you.
When we spoke 4 years ago, you talked about the Spanish language stuff, and so has it been slow implementing that, or have you had a lot of success?
Oh man, it took me about 3 years to put the Spanish Bible on. This was when I was doing Uber. So I was doing Uber for about 12 hours a day, and then in between the break, I would go to McDonald's, edit the Spanish Bible chapter by chapter.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
You're doing your purgatory here on Earth, or what?
Well, there's just even when the first one Stephen was born, we were just I remember being in the hospital room, and we were just waiting for the dilation to get there and to kill time. I was putting the meditation of St. Alphonsus together. I mean, wherever I was at a conference in Colorado Springs one year, and I was putting together the Denzinger. That was on there. I was just in between people putting the Denzinger on. Right click, edit, right click, put it together. The Colby conference was at 5 years ago. I was finishing Sparago Catechism, just sitting in the back, recording, right click. So I'm listen. I do multitask everything. I got 5 books I'll read at one time. I'm listening to this, putting this together, 78 things, 100 sites open. So it's just one of those, I know what's going on and just focus on the one, go with the other. I got some other ideas coming up on the web. There's 11,000 links on the website. So yeah, I got French, Italian, Spanish, and English Dom Garanger. So I think I'm the only Catholic website that has him in 4 languages. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, keep up the good work. God bless you. I've got that perpetual mass that I hooked you up with 4 years ago, so that's still going strong.
Appreciate it.
I'd appreciate if you'd say a Hail Mary for me too, me and my family.
Of course.
And I love you very much. I appreciate everything you do, and can't wait to talk to you again in 4 years from now.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, hopefully it won't be 4 years. It'll be earlier. Yeah,
all right.
Definitely.
And I'm gonna have that guy Richard Barrett on soon. He agreed to come on. Awesome. So excellent. And send me interesting guests if you know anyone that's interesting that would like to chat about their worldview, even if they're not Catholic. Just send them my way. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do. Definitely.
Take good care.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
God bless you, Steve.
You too.
Bye.